Chapter 1255. Even Li Xiongtu couldn't understand why Li Tongtian was so stingy. In his opinion, since he was getting it for free, it was only right that he give some to everyone to treat their old injuries. Besides, they didn't ask for much, just half a wine cup. Staring, Li Xiongtu said in surprise, "Elder Master, this? Everyone needs it. It's not a big deal to give some to everyone to treat their injuries." The corner of Li Tongtian's mouth twitched. He thought to himself, it's not a big deal? It's a big deal. If you give them a drop and cause you're ranking in the tribulation to drop, then the entire Li clan will be suppressed for 10,000 years? You must know that the tribulation has to be ranked. It's easy to give it to them now, but if they are ranked at the bottom in the future, even if you crush their bones and scatter their ashes 10,000 times, you will still have to endure 10,000 years of oppression. How can you give it away? That's definitely not allowed. Li Tongtian muttered to himself, not to mention these few guys, even I can't take it. If I take it, I'm afraid the Elder Master will personally skin me alive. But since Li Xiongtu had said so, Li Tongtian naturally had to express his opinion. Xiongtu said that he wants to give it to you, her. Do you want it? The threat in his tone was so obvious that even a dog could hear it. The 7 supreme martial artists shook their heads. What are you talking about? This belongs to Xiongtu. We're just joking, her, just joking. Okay. Li Tongtian nodded satisfactorily. Then his expression changed. Then why aren't you going back to get the bottle? What are you waiting for? Waiting for Xiongtu to give it to you? Her, can you accept it? The 7 supreme martial artists left in a sorry state. Li Xiongtu was stunned. How ruthless. He even blocked the path that he had secretly given it to them. He's really good at acting. As expected of the tribulation. This thought popped up in both Li Tongtian and Li Wubu's minds at the same time. That girl, come over here. I'll instruct you. Li Tongtian shouted, you have to keep an eye on young Master Xiongtu. Then you have to watch him drink this cup in the morning and at night, understand? The girl in white replied with a trembling voice, yes. Li Tongtian nodded satisfactorily. Li Xiongtu was very dissatisfied with Li Tongtian's attitude. Frowning, he said, Elder Master, this girl? I like it very much. Furthermore, I've already decided that if I break through to the supreme level, I'll hand it over to the clan and raise her status. I'll take her as my wife. The implication was, of course, be more polite when you speak to her in the future. The white-clothed girl, Meng Huanhuan, immediately blushed and lowered her head. What? Li Tongtian and Li Wubo were both shocked. This shock was no small matter. The two of them actually stood up. You want to marry a girl? Li Tongtian frowned. Yes. Li Xiongtu said resolutely, she's not a girl. She's my wife. Li Tongtian's brows twitched violently at once. However, Li Wubo seemed to have thought of something and suddenly sat down. He asked, Xiongtu, has the person who gave you this treasure seen this girl? Li Tongtian came to a sudden realization and looked at Li Xiongtu with a burning gaze. Li Xiongtu was startled. How is this matter related to that person again? What did it have to do with him? Still, he replied, I saw him. Li Tongtian asked anxiously, then did he say anything? Frowning, Li Xiongtu recalled and said, at that time he said, what a beautiful girl with a pure heart. Li Xiongtu, you're very fortunate. Yes, that's what he said. Li Tongtian and Li Wubo heaved a sigh of relief at the same time. They sat back down. Smiling, he said, the Li clan won't ask about your marriage. Since Xiongtu has taken a fancy to her, as long as you've made up your mind, I'll inform the clan tomorrow. We'll just give this girl a status. Is there anything else to say? Li Wubo also nodded with a smile. The white-clothed girl, Meng Huanhuan, couldn't help but let out an ah. She raised her head and forgot her place. She wouldn't even dream of it. The clan would be so straightforward. In her heart, the clan had groomed Li Xiongtu this way. Of course, it was the core of the clan. Which of the core members didn't get married to a lady from a respectable family? As for herself, to be able to be Li Xiongtu's concubine in this lifetime was already enough. She didn't expect that something that she didn't even dare to think about would actually happen just like that? That's not right. When did the clan become so easy to talk to? Even young Master Li Ju was grounded and beaten by the clan for opposing his own marriage. It was only in the end that the girl he had taken a fancy to was taken in as his concubine. Li Xiongtu was also stunned. So easy? What? Why did it seem like something was wrong? Little did he know that Li Tongtian and Li Wubo were holding their breaths in their hearts right now. Damn you, Li Xiongtu. You were still saying that you didn't know anything just now. Now you actually know how to use that person to pressure us. The Tribulation Sword Master is already choosing a wife for his brother. What's the use of us objecting? Why didn't you say so earlier? You almost put us in an awkward position." As they spoke, the 7 supreme martial artists had already returned with the purple crystal bottles. Li Tongtian personally filled the bottles to the brim with spiritual spring water. In the end there was still half a cup left. Everyone stared at it eagerly. Li Tongtian pondered for a moment and shouted, "Open your mouth." Everyone's mouths were wide open. With a swoosh, Li Tongtian poured all the spiritual spring water into Li Xiongtu's mouth. Then he turned around and scolded, "Look at your useless faces. What a disgrace. I told him to open his mouth. Why did you open your mouths? Are you trying to disgust me to death with your mouths full of stinky teeth?" At this moment, the 7 supreme martial artists really wanted to die. After leaving Li Xiongtu's residence, the 7 supreme martial artists went back with their heads drooping. They sighed along the way. Li Tongtian and Li Wubua strolled back in the snow. "How is it? Now you're sure, right?" Li Tongtian laughed softly. "I'm sure." Li Wubua's voice was trembling a little. That was from excitement. Initially I thought that Li Xiongtu shouldn't be, because his expression didn't seem to be fake. But this time, Tiske? Li Tongtian rolled his eyes. "How can you see through tribulation schemes? Forget it, let's not think about it anymore. After going back this time I can finally have a good night's sleep. At least for the next 10,000 years I can be at ease." Li Wubua nodded repeatedly. Yes. But this Tribulation Sword Master is indeed powerful. Our Li clan's security is very tight. But this Lord Sword Master can actually come and go as he pleases, disappearing without a trace. Li Tongtian snorted and said, "Otherwise, how can he be the Tribulation Sword Master?" Li Wubua nodded repeatedly. Yes, sir. I wonder how that child Li Ju is getting along with Xiongtu now. If he can improve further, if our Li clan occupies 2 seats in the land of tribulation in the future. Stop. Remember to settle that lass's matter tomorrow. Li Tongtian rolled his eyes and walked away on his own. Li Wubua sighed. That girl has really climbed up the social ladder. She's a lowly person to begin with. Could it be that she's going to become the wife of tribulation in the future? Chu Yang had already returned to the hot spring. Regarding this matter, Chu Yang felt a little comfortable but also a little melancholy. Of course he was more speechless. Because he didn't expect that Li Xiongtu, this simpleton, could actually be so simple-minded. He had already told him clearly that this was a priceless treasure, the spiritual spring. He didn't expect that after he left, this fellow still yelled so loudly. Couldn't he have made a fortune silently? Of course, if he knew what happened afterward he would be even more speechless. To be honest, Chu Yang only wanted to help Li Xiongtu this time. Firstly, he couldn't bear to see such a hero die in such a manner. Secondly, Li Xiongtu was a little worried. Secondly, it was also so that Dong Wuxiang would have a worthy opponent in the future. When he stood at the peak, Dong Wuxiang wouldn't feel lonely. Just like the legends now, Bu Luqing and Ning Tianya. Other than that, Chu Yang didn't have any other thoughts. But what he didn't expect was that things would be so dramatic. Because of Li Xiongtu's yell, things took an unimaginable turn. Chu Yang's unintentional act instead solidified Li Xiongtu's position as one of the tribulations, in the eyes of the Li clan. It eliminated the last bit of doubt. It also made the Li clan's hesitation to fight to the death with the 8 super clans to become as firm as a rock. And they were 100 times more confident and full of fighting spirit. If someone from the other 8 super clans were to encounter someone from the Li clan now, the Li clan would definitely act boldly and confidently and kill them. Be ruthless. Be as cruel as possible. Fight for one of the tribulations of the Li clan. One had to say that this was an opportunity in life. It was really too miraculous. Of course, Chu Yang didn't know that he had unintentionally added fuel to Imo Tianji's extremely sinister plan once again. He didn't know either. Not only did his bag of spiritual spring water resolve Li Xiongtu's life-threatening situation, it also resolved Li Xiongtu's most troublesome marriage. The great minister Chu, who never left his name after doing good deeds, didn't know about all these. He just soaked naked in the bathtub again, absorbing the Li clan's foundation, the energy of the earth fire, to enrich his dantian unceasingly, to harmonize the yin and yang in his body. Then, he extended both his hands into the pile of purple crystals, vigorously absorbing the energy of the purple crystals that the Li clan had painstakingly excavated. He even narrowed his eyes, thinking very hard. Why is it that even though we've already excavated 1,000 feet into that huge purple crystal mine, There's still no sign of the soul of the purple crystal? He was really an insatiable person. In the wee hours of this day, Lord Z appeared at the purple crystal mine again with a frosty expression and purple aura around him. He walked in coldly, ignoring all the people who greeted him along the way. However, everyone only greeted him respectfully and then hurriedly ran away. Chapter 1256. Only the manager of the Purple Crystal Mine, a third-grade supreme martial artist, Lord Li Qinglu, had nowhere to run or hide. He could only brace himself and follow beside Lord Z, enduring his incessant curses and complaints. That bunch of idiots didn't come again, did they? Lord Z's question left Li Qinglu at a loss for words. I don't think so. If that happens again, Li Wubo might as well jump into a cesspool and drown himself. This question was even more impossible to answer. Li Qinglu could only smile bitterly. Lord Z muttered to himself as he walked in. Li Qinglu smiled bitterly behind him and braced himself to follow. When they were about to reach the end, Lord Z suddenly turned around. Are you very free? Huh? No. Manager Li Qinglu was very perplexed. Then why are you following me? Lord Z roared furiously. Hurry up and get to work. Li Qinglu ran away, scared out of his wits. Only a ghost would be willing to follow you. But if you didn't ask me to leave, would I dare to leave? Manager Li truly felt how reasonable this sentence was. After walking for a long distance, he couldn't help but sigh. Damn it. Being with a king is like being with a tiger. Lord Z once again sat in that most comfortable position. He was wearing a mink coat and there were tall purple crystals on the left and right sides of his head. Then, with an extremely dissatisfied expression, he reached out and stuck the purple aura on the gap that had returned to the size of a teacup. Get to work. The sword spirit came out at once and darted in at lightning speed. In the tribulation space it started to rain heavily again. Before long, the sword spirit's excited voice rang out. Lord Sword Master. Soul of the Purple Crystal. The soul of the Purple Crystal has appeared. Chuyang shuddered. The purple aura on him almost dissipated. He hurriedly stabilized himself and his consciousness was guided by the sword spirit. He entered this treasure trove. It was surrounded by a patch of sparkling purple crystal cores. Pieces of purple crystal jade essence entered his vision. However, at the innermost part of the purple crystal jade essence, a patch of dense purple aura was revealed. It seemed to have condensed into a physical substance. It floated up and down. Take it out and let me see. Chuyang said anxiously. All right. The sword spirit collected all the purple crystal cores and purple crystal jade essence around him. He collected thousands of pieces in one go and finally revealed the so-called soul of the purple crystal. It was a piece of purple crystal that was emitting a purple aura. He appeared quietly. Other purple crystals, even the purple crystal jade essence, would only emit a purple glow. However, this piece of purple chi continuously emitted from its body, curling upwards. In an instant, everything became hazy. And all the purple crystals that were enveloped by this aura seemed to gradually deepen in color. So the soul of the purple crystal can increase the quality of purple crystals. Realization dawned on Chuyang. Yes. Generally, in the large-scale purple crystal mines above the Imperial Palace, every purple crystal mine would definitely have a piece of soul of the purple crystal, slowly nourishing it. As for the soul of the amethyst, even if he was found, he wouldn't take it out. If you hurt your foundation, the sword spirit said. I see. Chuyang's eyes lit up. In that case, how much can a piece of soul of the purple crystal increase one's cultivation? The soul of the purple crystal only provides the purest heaven and earth yuan qi. But converting the heaven and earth yuan qi into cultivation is a personal matter. How can you say that? The sword spirit was somewhat dissatisfied, but he still explained, it can provide you with endless spiritual energy. No matter where you are. No one can bear to completely absorb a piece of soul of the purple crystal. Therefore, I also don't know how much a piece of soul of the purple crystal of this size can increase one's cultivation. Okay. Chuyang nodded and gave the highest order. Collect. Collect all of them. The sword spirit chuckled and immediately began to collect without restraint. Chuyang's consciousness retreated in satisfaction. Yes, I, the Lord Sword Master, won't do such menial work. I'm only in charge of waiting in the tribulation space. Minister Chu's consciousness entered the tribulation space. He moved a purple crystal chair and sat down. Crossing his legs, he looked at the pitter-patter of the rainstorm. Purple crystal core, purple crystal jade essence, soul of the purple crystal. Only then did Chu Yang realize that the sword spirit had already opened up more than 10 large warehouses in the tribulation space. The largest one was, of course, filled with the million ordinary purple crystals that Chu Yang had originally earned from the outside world. The sword spirit had treated them like trash and piled them up into a pile. Next was a warehouse. 2 of them were already full. Inside, all the purple crystal cores were neatly stacked, row after row, as if they were in a military parade. Following that were 2 warehouses filled with neatly arranged purple crystal jade essence. Next was a small warehouse. At this moment, there were already 17 to 18 pieces of souls of the purple crystal inside. And they were still falling from the sky. Falling? At this point I close my eyes and have a dream. In the dream I'm sitting in my room with my legs crossed, and then the RMB in the sky is falling from the sky in rows. Falling? This time Lord Z worked overtime continuously. However, the overtime period was extended by 1 day. It became 4 days. In these 4 days the sword spirit worked himself to death, but his achievements were also remarkable. All the warehouses that had already been opened up were already filled to the brim. The sword spirit simply opened up another 20 large warehouses. At first, Minister Chu was still very excited to go in and count his points. 1 million, 2 million, 4 million. In the end, Chu Yang became numb to it. How would he have so much free time to go in and count his points? He would just take as many as he wanted. It was often said that counting money until one's hands cramped, but the current Minister Chu had obviously exceeded this realm. He was already counting money to the point where he would feel annoyed at the sight of money. However, young Master Chu was still very concerned about the number of souls of the purple crystal. He repeatedly counted them one by one. In the end, he determined that in these 4 days, he had collected a total of 1,538 pieces of souls of the purple crystal. Countless purple crystal jade essence. Purple crystal cores. Who would still have the patience to talk about that? As for ordinary purple crystals. Now, Minister Chu even wanted to throw away ordinary purple crystals like trash. They were too much of a hindrance. They took up too much space. Just like that, 10 consecutive days passed. On this day, 2/3 of the treasures in this huge purple crystal mine had already entered the tribulation dimension. And Chu Yang had also opened up the hole outside to the size of a basketball. This progress. It really couldn't be said to be slow. When Li Wubua, the clan master of the Li clan, heard this news, he would wake up laughing even in his dreams. Of course, if he knew that the thing that he had been excited about for a lifetime had actually become someone else's wedding dress and that someone else was eating the meat. If he didn't even get to drink the soup, he would probably wake up crying in his dreams. He would completely turn into a baby and cry when he woke up. When he got tired of crying, he would sleep. The sword spirit was also very excited. He continuously overdrew. After continuously mining these treasures to the limit, the sword spirit discovered that his mental strength had actually increased by almost double. Originally it could only last for 3 days. Now it could already last for 5.5 days. This was a remarkable improvement. Of course, Chu Yang himself had also improved greatly during this period of time. He had already absorbed most of the earth core fire. Now the Li clan's earth core fire could already barely be considered warm. He reckoned that after some time, by the time this Lord Z left, the earth core fire would have already frozen over. The purple crystal mine was about to reach the bottom soon. The holy crystals actually hadn't appeared yet. Lord Z was rather anxious. He urged the sword spirit to increase his efforts. Finally, on this day, the sword spirit was mining. After collecting the purple crystal cores, purple crystal jade essences and souls of the purple crystal that were several feet thick, suddenly, a brilliant purple light shot out like a bolt of lightning. This purple light was brilliant and magnificent. It was insufferably arrogant. It was as if a rising sun had suddenly appeared in this treasure trove. The holy crystals have appeared. The sword spirit roared excitedly. Chu Yang went in with a flash. He couldn't see what shape it was at all. There was only the dazzling and brilliant purple light shining in front of him. Chu Yang swallowed his saliva. Hurry up and collect them. The sword spirit hurriedly collected them. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In a whole afternoon's time, the entire purple crystal mine was emptied. Below them was already the ground. There was only the dazzling purple light in midair. It actually didn't land on the ground. It just floated in midair. Both Chu Yang and the sword spirit were dazzled by this amazing sight. It was really too beautiful. After a long while, when their eyes got used to the light, they finally saw that this ball of light was made up of different things. In the center was a round object the size of a pigeon's egg that was emitting a dazzling purple light. Around it, according to some mysterious trajectory, there were 10 egg-sized round objects floating in midair, forming a ball that surrounded the pigeon's egg-sized object. 10 holy crystals. 1 divine crystal. The sword spirit murmured. There was a kind of hysterical excitement in his eyes. So many. Jianghu was shocked. A peerless treasure. 1 holy crystal was enough to create an expert like Ning Tianya. And here, there were 10 of them. Chu Yang's breathing quickened. Hurry up and collect them. Minister Chu's face turned red. I can't collect them. The sword spirit was helpless. He was much greedier than Chu Yang. When he saw them just now, he wanted to collect them into the tribulation space. But after trying several times, they actually didn't move at all. How can it be? Chu Yang tried to collect them with his mental power and found that they really didn't move at all. The 10 holy crystals moved slowly and rotated according to a mysterious trajectory. They just floated in midair, neither up nor down, and shone brilliantly. Try using your hand. The sword spirit said, I'm a soul body. It's not as solid as yours. Chu Yang nodded and tried to reach out his hand into this purple light. As soon as he reached in, his whole arm turned into the color of purple crystals, and it was still darkening. But Chu Yang didn't feel uncomfortable. Instead, he felt infinitely comfortable, as if his whole body was soaking in a hot spring. His whole body was surrounded by warmth. The next moment, Chu Yang's finger came into contact with a holy crystal. He slowly clenched his fist and held the holy crystal in his hand. Inexplicably, he felt a burning sensation in his soul. He steeled his heart and used his strength to pluck this holy crystal. After a few days of continuous outbursts, I'm 500 votes behind in one night. The gap is about to break through 100 votes. This result makes me extremely sad and indignant. Gee, I beg for monthly votes. Gee. Chapter 1257. When he was mining this holy crystal, Chu Yang suddenly felt his heart tremble inexplicably at this moment. In front of him, a strange battlefield seemed to have appeared. At a glance, Chu Yang felt that his soul had been hit hard at the same time. In this image there was a person who was burly, mighty, and domineering. His entire body was purple and he held a purple light sword. He moved unhindered amidst countless people, and with each swing of his sword, several hundred strange-looking people died under his sword. The battle was getting more and more intense. The enemy was getting more and more people, and they surrounded him like a tide. He was fighting like a madman. Behind him was an impregnable pass. There were no comrades, no companions. He was fighting alone, using all his strength to stop these strange people from entering the impregnable pass. He did not know fatigue. His expression was fierce, but his eyes were tired and persistent. There was also a trace of indifference that came from seeing through the world. But since he had seen through the world, why was he still fighting like this? Chu Yang looked and was sure of one thing. If this person wanted to leave, even if the enemy had 1,000,000 soldiers, they would not be able to stop him. If he wanted to leave, he could leave. Even the enemy was hoping that he would leave. But he did not leave. He was fighting. He was fighting like crazy. Seemingly helpless, 3 figures suddenly flew out from the enemy's camp. They approached from afar, and in an instant they flew to the battlefield from afar. These 3 people each had a pair of black wings. Their faces were strange and their noses were sharp. They did not look like people of the continent. The 3 of them stopped in midair and seemed to be talking about something. On the ground, the burly godlike man raised his head and said something angrily. As for what he was saying, Chu Yang could not hear it. This scene was completely silent. After a long time, the enemy army retreated like a tide. On the battlefield, 4 people faced each other. 3 against 1. This person waved his sword and got into a fighting stance. Then he said one sentence. It was very short. Even though there was no sound, Chu Yang could still read the 2 words from the movement of his lips. Come. The other party seemed to be saying something, but the burly man ignored him. Finally, the 3 of them separated and formed a battle formation. The burly man with purple light around his body laughed and rushed up with his sword. The 4 of them rolled around and fought fiercely. Then the image was enlarged infinitely. As the 4 of them fought, Chu Yang could clearly see the surrounding mountains explode one after another, turning into flat ground and then into huge craters. Then the 4 of them leaped up and went straight into the green heavens. As they fought, Chu Yang could see that the surrounding starlight was extinguished one by one. Was that the residual power of the energy waves that destroyed the living continents one after another? This battle seemed to have lasted for a long time. If the 4 of them were to fight one-on-one, the big man would definitely have the upper hand. But 3 against 1, he was no match for them. In the battle he was constantly injured, but he continued to fight and did not retreat an inch. In the end, the four of them were exhausted, while the burly man was already covered in cuts and bruises after fighting 1 against 3. Finally he stopped abruptly and said something. All of a sudden, the 3 winged beings showed a frightened expression on their faces. They turned around and tried to leave. However, this burly man's body suddenly emitted a purple light that reached the heavens in an instant. The purple light was dazzling and resplendent, illuminating the starry sky for millions of miles. Then the burly man shouted something and his body suddenly exploded. The 3 of them seemed to scream at the same time, and their bodies were torn apart in the explosion. More than half of the enemy's camp in the distance was also destroyed by this huge explosion at this moment. Chu Yang's heart trembled. An emotion called heroism suddenly filled his heart. From the movement of the burly man's lips, Chu Yang could clearly see what his last sentence was. That was extraterrestrial demon. Come with me. A beam of light suddenly appeared and disappeared in a flash. The image suddenly disappeared. Chu Yang stood there in a daze. Only then did he realize that his face was already full of tears. This should be the battle of the extraterrestrial demons. But why did it appear here? At this moment, the sword spirit shouted, "There are words here." Chu Yang was shocked. He opened his eyes and looked over. In front of him, at the place where the holy crystal and the nerves appeared, there were words formed by purple light. Experiencing thousands of dangers and tribulations, tasting the waves of the 3 rivers and 4 seas, I was originally a free and unfettered traveler, moving freely in broad daylight. War drums in the extraterrestrial domain soared to the sky. How can the blood in my heart rest? Today my heart will be destroyed. I will turn this body into tribulation waves, leaving behind 1,000 years of legacy. My loyal heart will be a legend for eternity. There are countless people in the heavens, but it's a pity that no one can accompany me. Today this body will go all out. Can you change the blood in your heart? Junior, who has received the inheritance, do not forget to fight the extraterrestrial demons. Chu Yang's heart trembled. This was a poem that was written before death. The person who wrote this poem must be this burly man who died in the battle. It could be seen that this person was not very refined. The poem he wrote was also not very smooth, and there were some sentences that did not make sense. However, there was a sense of heroism, a sense of sadness, a sense of depression, and a sense of heroism that went straight to the heart, making Chu Yang's heart feel heavy. For a moment, it was as if he was being weighed down by lead. Below, as the light flashed, big words appeared continuously. It was this person's life. My name is Zihao, the Heavenly Emperor of the Purple Cloud's Heavenly Palace. I am in charge of the Purple Cloud's Heavenly Palace, which borders the extraterrestrial realms. The Purple Cloud's Heavenly Palace has always been a place that the extraterrestrial realms and the Heavenly Palace's militarists must fight for. Back then, I rushed to the Heavenly Palace with my blood and energy. For tens of thousands of years, I conquered the East and West and became the Heavenly Emperor. The saint bestowed the title of Heavenly Emperor of the Purple Cloud's Heavenly Palace upon me for my bravery and skill in battle. In name, I was bestowed with the title of Marquis, but in reality I was charging and breaking through enemy lines. However, my nature is fierce and my blood boils when there is a battle. I did not take it to heart. I ran the Purple Cloud's Heavenly Palace for 150,000 years. The extraterrestrial realms were small and insignificant, and could not take a step forward. In the year of the Heavenly Palace's calendar, there was a great change in the extraterrestrial realms. The living space of the extraterrestrial demons was assimilated by the heaven and earth day by day, and the environment became more and more hostile. They were restless and wanted to occupy the Heavenly Palace. I sent messages to the Heavenly Palace several times, but they were all rejected. Therefore, I could only worry day and night, and prepare for war with all my might alone. On the 18th day of the same year, the Heavenly Palace celebrated peace with songs and dances. The extraterrestrial realm's war drums shook the heavens. Millions of extraterrestrial realm's troops stepped into the Heavenly Palace. Zhang Liang, the commander-in-chief of the border, and millions of soldiers retreated before the battle. In one night, the Purple Cloud's Heavenly Palace was exposed to the enemy. I rose to kill the enemy and sent a message to the Heavenly Palace. If the Heavenly Palace was responsible for killing the enemy, how could the extraterrestrial realm's clowns be worth mentioning? However, everyone was comfortable and coveted life. The crime of sensationalism caused me to fight alone. The 7 million soldiers under my command, along with their families, all died in the hands of the extraterrestrial realm's strong enemies in 3 years. None of them survived. My sworn brother, the seventh brother, Leng Yu, fought against the extraterrestrial demons and was killed. My family perished together. My brother, Han Chang, was trapped in the heavenly wolf pass alone. He fought until there was not a single soldier left before his body exploded and he died. My fifth brother, Meng Hui, led an army of 100,000 to meet the extraterrestrial realm's 400,000 troops and perished together. My fourth brother, Quang Dao, rushed to help my fifth brother. He was ambushed and died an unnatural death. My third brother, Bai Luo, died in battle at the heavenly wolf pass. My second brother, Shui Gu, guarded the purple cloud's gate and turned into blood of righteousness. My eldest brother, Zhang Xuan's family of 300, guarded the heaven-breaching pass. Surrounded by enemies from all sides, the jade-shattering heaven-breaching pass. My son, my eldest son-in-law, my eldest daughter, 7 million soldiers, 20 million family members, purple cloud heaven's combat power, none survived. 450 million subjects, all of them perished. I Zihao will fight my last battle today. The 3 extraterrestrial demon marshals will definitely take action. There is no doubt that I will lose this battle. There is no such thing as luck. However, the blood of my brothers flowed in front of me. How can I Zihao drag out my life? This battle is the only way to repay my brothers and my subjects. Back then, I boasted, as long as I Zihao am here, the extraterrestrial realms will not be able to take another step forward. I did it. I am comforted. My brothers and subjects, there are no cowards. Although they died in battle, their noble spirit lives on forever. I am comforted. Even if I die in battle, I will reunite with my brothers. I am comforted. Only my heart is indignant. The heavenly imperial court rises. What can the extraterrestrial realms do? However, the heavenly soldiers of Zihao fought for a year. When we were at the end of the road, when we were on the brink of death, the heavenly imperial court sang and danced in celebration. Hundreds of billions of living beings did not send any reinforcements. Today I die a worthy death. I have no regrets. I only have one thing in my heart. Why are people's hearts so cold? What followed was a repetition of hundreds of sentences. Why are people's hearts so cold? Why are people's hearts so cold? Why are people's hearts so cold? The last sentence was, if I go today, who will protect my purple cloud heavens? Chu Yang's gaze focused. He did not speak for a long time. The message left by the heavenly emperor of purple cloud heavens, Zihao, gradually disappeared in a dazzling purple light. Finally, it turned into a majestic pass. It was tens of thousands of feet tall and tens of thousands of feet wide. Majestic and vast, it was indomitable. There were 3 big words, each of which was half the size of a city. Purple light flashed, purple cloud heavens. This was a hero. Chu Yang's heart was filled with respect. He thought silently, this Zihao fought alone until he died. He could be said to be a hero of his generation. However, the words he said before he died were so infuriating. There are countless people in the heavenly imperial court. It's a pity that no one can accompany me. My Zihao heavenly army fought for a year until they were at the end of the road. At the moment of life and death, there were hundreds of billions of people in the heavenly imperial court, but there was not a single reinforcement. Today I die a worthy death. I have no regrets. I only have one thing in my heart. Why are people's hearts so cold? Why are people's hearts so cold? These words, coming from the mouth of a hero who fought against foreign invaders, at the moment when he was at the end of the road and longed for reinforcements, were so sorrowful. There was not a single reinforcement in this year. Hero. Chu Yang murmured. He watched his brothers die one by one. He watched his descendants step onto the battlefield one by one and die without a complete corpse. In the end, he even stepped out with awe-inspiring vigor and fought a decisive battle with the invaders in the heavenly imperial court. He died and died. However, after he died, there was still a little bit of his spirit that was not extinguished. He left behind this amazing treasure. He also left behind a sentence. Do not forget to fight the extraterrestrial demons when I receive the inheritance. Don't worry, if I can rush up to the heavenly imperial court, I will go to the battle with the extraterrestrial demons. Chu Yang clenched his fists and said quietly, I will restore your purple cloud heavens. With a crash, all the holy crystals suddenly fell at this moment. Chapter 1258. Ever since the light screen appeared, the holy crystals and divine crystals had been motionless in the air. They seemed to be waiting for something. Chu Yang took down the holy crystal. The circle of holy crystals was still hovering in the air. Chu Yang vaguely felt that they seemed to be looking forward to something. It was also as if that ancient soul, that unyielding fighting soul, was looking at him with bright eyes. Chu Yang's blood surged as he said, "Don't worry. Don't worry, if I can rush up to the heavenly imperial court, I will go to the battle of the extraterrestrial demons. I will restore your purple cloud heaven." This sentence was a promise. Chu Yang's promises had always been bloody and resolute. Before he finished speaking, 18 holy crystals fell at the same time. In the divine crystal house, 18 holy crystals were neatly arranged around. There seemed to be a faint sigh in the air. It was a kind of relief of finally being at ease. There was also some disappointment and apology. Chu Yang could understand this sense of apology. Although it was only a faint sigh, Chu Yang completely understood. "I'm sorry, but I can only leave you this much. I have a lot of things, a lot of inheritances and combat power, but I was really at the end of my rope at that time. I can only leave you this much. I can't leave more." As a celestial emperor of a generation, he could only leave behind these treasures. It was undoubtedly a little shabby. But Chu Yang only felt a stirring and tragic feeling. This heavenly emperor of purple clouds must have already used up all his energy and treasures in battle. To be able to leave behind such treasures when he was at the end of his rope. It was already very good. Chu Yang completely believed that if it weren't for the obsession and unwillingness in his heart, he wouldn't have even left these behind. He would have used them all in battle so that he wouldn't leave a single trace of his life in this world. Chu Yang took a long breath. He said, "You don't have to apologize. Even without these, the extraterrestrial demons, I will still kill them." In this space, all the purple smoke finally disappeared. It regained its clarity. The sword spirit absorbed all the holy crystals and divine crystals into the tribulation space. Chu Yang took the one in his hand. He also put it into the tribulation space. When the holy crystal in Chu Yang's hand entered, the 18 holy crystals inside flew up at the same time and immediately formed a big circle in the air. Light radiated in all directions. The 10 saint crystals revolved around him, and balls of pure purple crystal energy flowed out endlessly. At some point in time, the divine crystal had returned to its core and was suspended in the tribulation space, illuminating the entire space. A sea of purple. Chu Yang suddenly realized that the primordial violet vapor in the tribulation space was slowly becoming denser. At this moment, all of the spirit medicine's branches were covered in purple drops. It seemed that they were growing even more vigorously. Chu Yang's eyes were full of solemnity as he watched all these changes. "Sword Spirit, have you ever heard of the Purple Cloud Heavenly Emperor's name?" Chu Yang asked lightly. The Sword Spirit thought for a while and said, "I've never heard of it, but it's in the Heaven Imperial Court. The Purple Cloud Heavens does exist, but now, it has already become the base of the extraterrestrial demons. The place where the extraterrestrial demons are stationed." Chu Yang's heart ached. He said angrily, "How can the place where heroes died in battle become the place where the extraterrestrial demons gather? Did the people from the Heaven Palace eat shit? Has Shui Leihan eaten too much shit?" The Sword Spirit kept quiet out of fear. After a long while, he said, "This Purple Cloud Heavenly Emperor must have been a figure in ancient times." Chu Yang's anger had not subsided. He snorted heavily and asked, "Is Shui Leihan a saint in the Heaven Imperial Court?" The Sword Spirit coughed violently. "No. What is a saint?" Chu Yang asked. The Sword Spirit was dumbfounded. Looking at this audacious little brat, he said, "A saint is a supreme being. This you have to be respectful." "Respect his ass." Chu Yang said rudely, "Don't talk nonsense with me. In the future, I'll be a saint in the Heaven Imperial Court. What's the use of a saint who watches his brothers fight alone for so many years without providing any reinforcements?" The Sword Spirit was speechless. He shut his mouth and did not speak. This guy was angered by the Purple Cloud Heavenly Emperor and actually wanted to rebel against a saint? The more he said, the more mistakes he would make. Even if he did, it would be a big deal. "What is Shui Leihan's ranking below the saints in the Heaven Imperial Court?" Chu Yang asked. "At present, he's first." The Sword Spirit was careful. "Coward." Chu Yang scolded. The Sword Spirit became mute again. After a long time, he mustered up his courage and said, "The war between the Heaven Imperial Court and the extraterrestrial demons has been going on for millions of years. At that time Lord Shui may not have the position he has today." "Not necessarily." Chu Yang panted, but he finally let go of the topic of Shui Leihan's inaction. He said, "The Heavenly Emperor of the Purple Clouds has placed his own treasures here. The Double Heavens continent has obviously given up on the people of the Double Heavens imperial court. But I, Chu Yang, will not disappoint him. Chu Yang said heavily. The sword spirit said flatteringly, Lord Sword Master will not disappoint anyone. Chu Yang raised his eyebrows. Humph. After a long silence, the sword spirit seemed to have thought of something. Lord Sword Master, in that divine crystal, there must be the legacy of the Purple Cloud Heavenly Emperor. Chu Yang's eyes narrowed. But now, with Lord Sword Master's strength, you are not qualified to receive it. The sword spirit said weakly. Chu Yang flew into a rage. Quickly disappear in front of me, with the speed of clouds. In the next few days, the Li clan members realized that Lord Z had become lazy. On average, he only went to the Purple Crystal Mine once every 2 days. And every time he went, it would only be for an hour. He would pretend to dawdle and then call it a day. With the greatest treasure already in his hands, how could Lord Z still be interested in working for the Li clan? His greatest interest now was the Li clan's earth core fire. But after another 2 days, the earth core fire was actually gone. That hot spring had actually frozen over. Chu Yang was furious. He flew into a rage. Too weak. I haven't had my fill yet. He didn't think about it. His mental strength was the best in the world, and the sword spirit's was definitely not weaker than his. With the two of them desperately absorbing the earth fire together, even if the Li clan had plenty of earth fire resources, how many days could it last? And he was still complaining that it wasn't enough. If he really had his fill, then how strong would the Li clan's foundation be? Seeing that the Li clan's treasures were gone as well as the earth fire, Lord Sword Master Chu wanted to leave. On this day, Chu Yang was in his room thinking about how to leave when he suddenly received news that the clan head had come to visit. It was actually Li Wubua who came personally. Brother Z is really in a good mood. Li Wubua naturally wouldn't visit him for no reason. He was here to rush him. Brother Z, you've been very free these few days. Chu Yang rolled his eyes and said, Are you blaming me for being lazy? I wouldn't dare. Li Wubua gave a fake smile. My technique has improved again recently. I'm currently gathering energy. Chu Yang frowned. If I have a large amount of purple crystals, I can break open a small part of this thing within a day. Currently, I'm looking for a suitable opportunity. Before he left, Minister Chu was prepared to extort him again. Break open a small part of it within a day? Li Wubua's eyes were wide open. Really? Chu Yang said unhappily, How can I lie about such a big matter? Li Wubua was overjoyed at once. He asked, How many purple crystals do you need? A rough estimate would probably require about 2 million pieces. Chu Yang did some calculations and said with a frown, This is indeed not a small amount. I'll prepare 3 million pieces for Sir. Li Wubua immediately decided. Compared to being able to break open the treasure as soon as possible, what were 3 million purple crystals worth? If this guy were to continue at this rate, he might not be able to break open the treasure even after 3 to 5 years. Furthermore, by that time, he would probably have to spend a few hundred million. Clan leader Li, great job. Chu Yang was beaming with joy and slapped his thigh. But may I know when Brother Z can start? Li Wubua asked. Once the purple crystals are gathered, I'll immediately activate the purple crystal heaven opening technique. After that, I'll need a few days' time to accumulate energy to the peak. Then I'll be able to make my move anytime. Chu Yang said seriously, but clan leader Li, please take note that once I activate the technique, there'll definitely be no more energy left in my body. It's highly likely that I'll be injured by the recoil. Therefore there must be an expert behind me. Once I launch the attack, he'll immediately pull me away to avoid the brunt of the attack. Li Wubua was even less suspicious. He agreed readily. Of course. Brother Z's safety is currently the most important matter of the Li clan. There definitely won't be any accidents. Chu Yang looked deeply touched. He said, Since clan leader Li thinks so highly of me, then today, I'll give clan leader Li a piece of news in return. This is a huge secret that concerns the situation of the heavens. What news? It actually has such an effect? Li Wubua couldn't help but lower his voice. As far as I know, this purple crystal mine of your clan isn't actually the number 1 in the continent. Chu Yang lowered his voice and said mysteriously, The true number 1 purple crystal mine in the continent. I know where it is. The number 1 purple crystal mine in the continent. Li Wubua's whole body shook. Then he smiled and said, If there really was one, it would have long been occupied by others. How would it even be our turn? Li Wubo wasn't surprised that it wasn't the #1 purple crystal mine in the continent. After all, back then it was the Yi clan, Xiao clan and the rest who chose the location first. Moreover, these few clans had been wealthy and powerful for tens of thousands of years. If they didn't have a large-scale purple crystal mine, that would be the strangest thing. No, as far as I know, that purple crystal mine is still ownerless even now. Chu Yang raised his eyebrows. Really? Li Wubo's eyes were burning. Where is it? Chapter 1259. Only one person knew? At once, Li Wubo felt a sense of bliss. In that case, if he killed this person, the largest purple crystal mine in the world would belong to the Li clan? If what this successor of the purple crystal clan said was true, then, by then the Li clan would possess this purple crystal mine as well as the #1 purple crystal mine in the world. Who in the world would be able to stop them? Who is this person? Patriarch Li's voice was laced with a hint of murderous intent. A sense of killing and robbing under the dark night was spreading. Does Clan Master Li know of a secret technique in the world called Purple Crystal Hand? Chu Yang asked calmly. Amethyst Hand? Of course he knew. This is an extremely insidious martial art technique. Li Wubo introduced the Purple Crystal Hand as if he was very familiar with it. However, this martial art technique is only hearsay. No one has ever seen it before. It is said that it has already been lost. What do you mean? According to what I know, only in an environment where the density of purple crystals has reached a rather terrifying level can one successfully cultivate the Purple Crystal Hand. Chu Yang smiled lightly. And the person I'm talking about has already cultivated to the level of a 3rd-grade supreme martial artist? Or perhaps a 4th-grade supreme martial artist or even higher? Chu Yang smiled and said, Clan Master Li, what do you think? The density of the purple crystals in this place where he's practicing the Purple Crystal Hand, to be able to let him have such achievements in such a short period of time. Li Wubo took a deep breath and said with a faint smile, this person's luck is really good. Chu Yang chuckled. I think so too, Clan Master Li. You're even luckier. Li Wubo smiled indifferently. However, there was a sharp glint in his eyes. Since you know this person with your cultivation, why don't you take action personally? Wouldn't it be better to monopolize the purple crystal mine? Chu Yang spread out his hands helplessly. Clan Master Li, did you hear wrongly? As I said earlier, this person is at least a 3rd-grade martial artist. Or even 4th rank or higher. Does Patriarch Li think that I can kill him? Li Wubo replied dispassionately, it's not necessarily impossible to kill him, right? You are the Sword Sovereign. Little Chu Yang smiled bitterly, what a pity. He also represented a great power. Although this great power didn't know that this person possessed a purple crystal mine, but the trouble of killing this person is also monstrous. As expected, Li Wubo snorted coldly in his heart. He thought to himself, if you are confident, why would you leak this information to me? Are you that kind-hearted? What's the name of this person? Li Wubo asked. This person is called Lang Yilong, Chu Yang said slowly. Lang Yilong. Li Wubo was shocked. Law enforcement officer. The head of the torture chamber. Yes. It's him. Chu Yang said lightly. Absolutely impossible. Li Wubo was greatly displeased. You're lying to me. More than 8 months ago, there was a rumor that Lang Yilong might be in possession of the Purple Crystal Hand. The law enforcement officers had once examined Lang Yilong. The conclusion they reached was that Lang Yilong didn't know that martial art at all. Chu Yang smiled faintly and said, Clan Master Li, if there's someone in your clan who has the Purple Crystal Hand divine technique, then that person will be able to use the Purple Crystal Hand. Will you announce it to the world? This. Li Wubo started to ponder. In such a situation, there are only 2 possibilities. Chu Yang said, firstly, Lang Yilong has already cultivated the Purple Crystal Hand to a level above Supreme Martial Artist. He can control the power of the Purple Crystal Hand and hide it at will. Clan leader Li should be aware of this. The cultivation of the Purple Crystal Hand is very special. If he wants to hide it, even a low-grade Supreme Martial Artist won't be able to detect it. Unless the person who is investigating also has the cultivation of the Purple Crystal Hand. The second possibility is that the law enforcement officers want to take this Purple Crystal mine for themselves. Chu Yang said slowly, I have the Purple Crystal Divine Technique and can completely prove this point. Also, I have witnesses and material evidence to prove that Lang Yilong has really cultivated the Purple Crystal Hand. Li Wubo pondered for a moment. This matter needs to be considered at length. Of course. Chuyang nodded and smiled. I'll get someone to prepare the purple crystals first. Li Wubwa got up and left hurriedly. Although he said that he needed to consider at length, Chuyang clearly noticed that this clan leader Li's eyes were shining with eagerness. Chuyang smiled inwardly. Of course Li Wubwa couldn't wait. To the Li clan now, the law enforcement officers were no longer a concern. Right now, the law enforcement officers were clearly going against the Tribulation Sword Master. Furthermore, the Li clan was clearly standing on the side of the Tribulation Sword Master. Going against the law enforcement officers was a foregone conclusion. Under such circumstances, why would the Li clan still care about the law enforcement officers or the master of the interrogation hall? Even if it was the Dharma Supreme. If the Li clan had the chance to take him down, they would take him down without any hesitation. What Li Wubwa cared about was not this but the accuracy of this information. Also, Li Wubwa didn't really understand some of the things that Chuyang said. Therefore he had to go back and confirm it. That was all. Within a day, 3 million purple crystals were transferred. The sword spirit began to use the technique of absorbing, converting all the purple crystals into energy and absorbing it into the tribulation space. Li Wubwa was also looking for a few veteran supreme martial artists to understand the situation. I heard that the purple crystal hand can only be cultivated in places with dense purple crystals? Of course. If the purple crystal hand could be cultivated so casually, how could it be called the purple crystal hand? Of course, it can only be cultivated when the density of purple crystals reaches a certain level. It won't work if the density is too low. Then the purple crystal mine of our Li clan, can it be cultivated? If we include the ones that haven't been mined, of course it can. If we only have what we have now, it shouldn't reach the level of purple aura from the east. If that's the case, is a purple crystal mine that can cultivate the purple crystal hand the number 1 purple crystal mine in the world? In principle, yes. However, regardless of whether it's the number 1 or the number 2 in the world, both have the right to cultivate the purple crystal hand. If one can cultivate the purple crystal hand to 4th grade supreme martial artist, or even higher, what kind of purple crystal mine would it be? A super purple crystal mine. The first question was completely clarified. What Lord Z said was true. I heard that Lang Yilong is cultivating the purple crystal hand? There's no evidence. And the law enforcement officers deny it. What if they can produce evidence? Then Lang Yilong himself is a huge treasure. The second question was clarified. What Lord Z said was still true. I heard that when the purple crystal hand is cultivated to the boundary between immortal and mortal, one can hide the power of the purple crystal hand at will? Only those who also possess the power of the purple crystal hand can detect it? Yes. According to the legends there is such a saying. However, the exact level of cultivation required to be able to hide it is unknown. As for the power of the purple crystal hand, it's not a legend. Whether it's true or not is unknown. The third question was suspenseful. What Lord Z said was more than 70% reliable. Li Wubwa was someone who did great things. Of course he had his own decisions. After he confirmed it, he made a prompt decision and issued an order. Pay attention to the law enforcement officers' movements. In particular, pay attention to the movements of the master of the law enforcement interrogation hall, Lang Yilong. Of course this order was very secretive. Especially, it had to be hidden from this successor of the Purple Crystal clan. If this treasure could be mined directly, what was the use of this Lord Z? Of course, if it still couldn't be mined, it wouldn't be too late to ask him to step in then. Moreover, it was chaos outside now. It was a chaotic world. The huge uproar caused by the news of Chuyang being an extraterrestrial demon was still ongoing. Now the whole world was searching for everyone related to Chuyang. The flat mountain ridge in the southeast had become the focus of attention. Every day, many people of the pugilistic world would come forward to eliminate the extraterrestrial demon. Although those who went had never returned, the pugilistic world was so big. Who knew who didn't return? Therefore, everyone still went forward one after another. One day, news suddenly spread in the pugilistic world that the accomplices of Chuyang, the extraterrestrial demon, had been discovered. Therefore, everyone gathered together to attack them. However, these few people were very tough. They actually broke out of the encirclement and wanted to break through to the southeast. However, since everyone had discovered them, how could they let them break through? Therefore, the roads leading to the southeast were all sealed off. The big clans contacted the law enforcement officers and the wanderers of the pugilistic world and spontaneously organized themselves. This cut off these few people's hopes of entering the southeast and joining forces with the extraterrestrial demon. It also caused the entire pugilistic world to encircle and annihilate them. These accomplices of the extraterrestrial demon were actually all veterans of the pugilistic world. They were wise and experienced. Left with no choice, they broke out of the encirclement. They fled all the way. Currently, they seem to be heading toward the northwest. Because in the whole world, only the northwest didn't put much effort into this aspect. When Li Wubo received this news, he didn't think much of it. What did this have to do with the Li clan? You guys can do whatever you want. The more people who die, the better. What extraterrestrial demon? I don't care at all. However, he soon received a new piece of news. This piece of news made Li Wubo unable to sit still any longer. Because this piece of news said that among these accomplices of the extraterrestrial demon, one of them was actually related to the master of the law enforcement interrogation hall, Lang Yilong. Currently, Master Lang Yilong had already led everyone out of the law enforcement city and was traveling through the night toward the northwest. It was said that he wanted to kill this person personally, or perhaps there was some other reason. In any case, the entire northwest of the continent, which had always been quiet, actually slowly started to become bustling with activity. Lang Yilong has come to the northwest? Li Wubo stood up abruptly as if he had taken medicine. Instead, he gave the intelligence officer who came to report a huge shock. Yes, that's great. Li Wubo rubbed his hands, unable to conceal the excitement on his face. This is really a huge pie that fell from the sky. If I don't catch it, Li Wubo will really be too ashamed to face my ancestors. If one is lucky, even the city walls won't be able to stop him. Li Wubo was very excited. How could he not be lucky? First, there was suddenly hope for the purple crystal mine that hadn't been successfully mined for 10,000 years. Then they received news of the #1 purple crystal mine in the world. Then, not long after they received this piece of news, the most important person actually delivered himself to their doorstep so coincidentally. Li Wubo couldn't contain the excitement in his heart. When a clan is about to prosper, there will definitely be auspicious signs. Didn't all of this prove one thing? The day that the Li clan will be able to make a comeback has finally arrived. Otherwise, how could there be so many good things happening one after another? This is the will of the heavens. Wah! I went to the hospital with my wife today. That thing was over. That thing seems to be that thing. That's why I'm going to the hospital with my wife today. Let's have more outbursts tomorrow. Chapter 1260. Li Wubo paced a few steps in the room, his eyes flashing. Finally, he pursed his lips and made up his mind. Slamming the table, he shouted, "Relay my orders immediately." Chu Yang stayed in the purple crystal mine for 2 consecutive days, waiting for Li Wubo to make a move. Of course, he knew that if Li Wubo really confirmed the news about Lang Yilong, he would definitely not tell him. He would only keep it for himself. Therefore, he needed to observe for many clues. Finally, on this day, Chu Yang discovered that the purple crystal mine was releasing large amounts of purple crystals. Chu Yang pulled Li Qinglu over and asked, "What's going on? These purple crystals aren't even enough for my own use, why are they still coming out?" Li Qinglu had a bitter look on his face. "Lord Z, the clan really needs to use them. What's the big deal? How dare you use my purple crystals?" Chu Yang said furiously, "Leave them all here." Li Qinglu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Do you really freaking think that these purple crystals are all yours? Who do you think you are?" "It's the clan leader's request." Under Chu Yang's abuse of power, Li Qinglu finally said it. The clan leader's request. Damn it. Lord Z cursed. Then he said, "We'll start the big explosion today." Since Li Wubo had started to release large amounts of purple crystals, he was definitely going to take action. And it was going to be a large-scale operation. The time he would spend outside would also be very long. If it was for a short period of time, he wouldn't need to bring so many purple crystals out. At a time like this, other than discovering Lang Yilong's whereabouts, Chu Yang couldn't think of any other reason for Li Wubo to take action on such a large scale. Since that was the case, it was time for him to leave. However, with the Li clan watching him so closely, how he was going to leave was a big problem. Big explosion? Really? Li Qinglu was overjoyed. Chu Yang snorted and waved his hand in a show of force. Li Qinglu suddenly realized that there was a thick purple aura on Lord Z's hand that couldn't be dissolved. Especially those purple threads that could break through sharp edges. At first, there were only 1 or 2 threads, but now, they covered his entire hand and there were at least 10 million of them. Li Qinglu was overjoyed at once. Then his heart ached. 3 million purple crystals in exchange for such purple threads. Upon hearing the news of the explosion, Li Wubwa and the other supreme martial artists rushed over immediately. Li Wubwa didn't forget to protect Lord Z. He sent a 5th-grade supreme martial artist behind Chu Yang to make preparations. He was prepared to rescue Lord Z at any moment. Right in front of him, Lord Z stood tall and proud in the face of that empty treasure trove. While everyone waited with bated breaths, Lord Z suddenly moved. Hey ya! An extremely strange moan that sounded like a constipation came out of Lord Z's mouth. Patriarch Li and the others felt their buttholes tighten at the same time. His back felt cold. It was too embarrassing. Following which, Lord Z puffed out his chest abruptly, becoming as lofty as a mountain. Her 2 hands began to move in front of her chest like butterflies. After his upper body reached a certain limit, he began to lower his body. First, she twisted her waist. Her waist rotated to the left and right like an electric motor. Then she swayed her buttocks. After making a few coquettish gestures and movements, her waist and buttocks swayed rapidly like a pole dancer. Watching from the back, Li Qinglu, Li Wubwa and the others simultaneously felt as if they had entered a brothel. It was unbearable to look at. Then Lord Z let out a loud shout, and the purple light in his hands shone brightly. Everyone widened their eyes. Knowing that Lord Z was about to explode, they all began to make preparations and circulate their energy. Their eyes shone brightly, like leopards that were about to go on a rampage. But, the moment the purple light shone in Lord Z's hands, he actually retracted it. Then he began to repeat the previous set of movements. Everyone was speechless. After a series of strange movements, Lord Z let out another loud roar. The purple light shone brightly. Everyone's hearts tightened, and they made preparations again. Lord Z retracted the purple light again. Behind him, there were already people gritting their teeth. Is this fellow deliberately toying with us? Then another loud roar sounded. This process continued for a total of 8 times. At the back, Li Wubwa and the others were speechless and speechless. They stood there in a daze as if they had been struck by lightning. Brother, can you be so hypocritical? You said that you only needed to do it once. Doing it 8 times in a row. What's the point of that? When it came to the 9th time, everyone closed their eyes and sighed, not even moving their bodies. Damn it. They would just take it as watching a show. All of a sudden, with a loud boom, there was an explosion that felt like a landslide. Everyone was dumbfounded. Lord Z's flustered and exasperated voice could be heard. Quick, catch me. But at this time the experts in charge of receiving Lord Z were already stunned. How could they possibly react? Everyone opened their eyes and watched helplessly as a violent explosion occurred in front of them. Powerful gusts of air flew everywhere and then, Lord Z was struck by the gusts of air. With a tragic cry, he flew out, flailing his arms and legs in the air. In mid-air, they saw fresh blood all over his body. Then Lord Z opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. Everyone only had time to circulate their energy to protect themselves during this explosion. The explosion was over. When everyone looked over, they were both overjoyed and speechless at the same time. What they were overjoyed about was that a huge hole had already appeared in that indestructible purple crystal mine. It was the size of a water tank and several feet deep. Although it hadn't been completely opened, the current situation was already several hundred times bigger than that basketball-sized hole from before. This progress was simply a shocking miracle. Everyone believed that as long as this happened 1 or 2 more times, it would definitely be opened. But, what they were speechless about was that Lord Z's face was covered in blood and his body was covered in wounds. Blood was bubbling out of his mouth and his eyes were lifeless. It was obvious that he was exhaling more than he was inhaling. It was as if he was on his deathbed. How was he going to continue? Lord Z landed with a thud right in front of Li Wubwa. No one knew where he got the strength from when he was so severely injured. He grabbed the lower hem of Li Wubwa's clothes and looked up with gritted teeth. You. Didn't you say that you had arranged for experts to get me out? Where are they? Li Wubwa was speechless. I did make arrangements, but you were twisting your waist and swinging your butt, roaring one after another. Who knew which roar would start? When everyone was in despair, you just had to make a move. How can you blame me for this? But this matter. Li Wubwa was really in the wrong. If I told you, would you know what method I would use? Would you know how many times I would need to use my luck? Therefore, Li Wubwa could only accept Lord Z's fury with a dumbfounded look on his face. I wasn't fooling around. I gathered all my energy and unleashed it all at once. You pig. Lord Z's words made Li Wubwa's face turn red. Fortunately, Lord Z fainted immediately. Otherwise, Li Wubwa felt that he would definitely be scolded by all his ancestors. Quick! Carry Lord Z back quickly and take good care of him. Li Wubo was extremely regretful. In his heart, Chu Yang had already risen to the level of a national treasure. Such a sturdy purple crystal mine and such a passageway had been blasted open. If he hadn't been negligent, wouldn't he have been able to see the treasure within a few days after this? It's all my fault, the Li clan leader blamed himself. You said that you were patient even when you visited the brothel. Why did you lose your patience when faced with Lord Z's antics? Sigh. He quickly arranged for doctors and experts to escort Lord Z back to recuperate, as though he was escorting his own mother. The top doctors of the Li clan also hurriedly came over and followed them. As he watched Lord Z being carried away, Li Wubo let out a bitter laugh in embarrassment. He went forward to check on the opening this time. The more he looked, the more ecstatic he felt. The size of a water tank and a depth of 40 to 50 feet. It was practically big enough to accommodate people. This was really a surprising progress. Treat Lord Z with all your might at all costs. Let Lord Z recover as soon as possible. Li Wubo ordered sternly. Yes. Chu Yang lay weakly on the bed, watching the two doctors bustling about with worried faces. With Chu Yang's cultivation and the sword spirit's means, pretending to be seriously injured was really as easy as eating broad beans. Right now, these two doctors of the Li clan were stumped. What should they do? Lord Z was hanging on by a thread. They didn't even dare to use any medicine. With such serious injuries, the clan actually gave them a death order. They had to make Lord Z stand up within 7 days. At the thought of this, the two doctors wanted to bang their heads against the wall. 7 days? It's already a miracle that we can keep Lord Z alive for 7 days, much less stand up. That's practically a myth. The two doctors sighed and then sighed again. They were helpless. At night, seeing that this Lord Z was stubbornly hanging on by a thread, the two of them were more or less relieved. The waves of clan elders who came to visit had already left. Of course, these elders all thought that Lord Z was seriously injured and on the verge of death. Besides, they didn't have any guard up against him. One of them stroked his beard and said, "Brothers, this old man will be leading the team to set off in the wee hours of this morning. When the time comes, I won't bid farewell to all of you." Yes. This was a low-grade supreme martial artist. The others were naturally reassured by his strength and said a few words of bon voyage. Of course. To Lord Z, who was lying on the bed, this sentence of setting off in the wee hours of this morning was the most crucial. The night watchman sounded. Deep into the night. Seeing that it was almost the wee hours of the morning, all was quiet. Lord Z suddenly said something vaguely. The two doctors hurried over. This is great news? He can speak now? But the moment they went over, the two of them felt the world spinning around them. Then they lost consciousness. Lord Z sat up slowly and looked at his clothes. Then, he nimbly removed the elder's robe and gently put it on himself. Then he took a bronze mirror and put on makeup in front of it, making himself look exactly like this doctor. Enduring the pain, he adjusted the muscles on his face. Finally, he sprinkled some powder on his hair, which instantly turned white. Then he shaved off the elder's goatee and carefully stuck it on his chin. Then he pretended to cough. Yes, his voice sounded old. Cough. He was so excited that he couldn't sleep last night. He tossed and turned on the bed. At 4 o'clock in the wee hours of the morning, he was tragically kicked off the bed by a certain someone who couldn't take it anymore. He had no choice but to sleep on the sofa for a while. Cough. He participated in an activity on the Pride Book Review page on the mobile network last night. Sadly, he didn't know how to do it. 5 teachers came to teach him, but the more they taught him, the more numb his limbs became. When he finally managed to find his way up, it only showed the author's ID and not the author's account. He was so ashamed that he couldn't show his face. Chapter 1261. Then with a bang sound, Chu Yang threw the remaining person's head into a coma and stuffed it under the bed. The old gentleman was still unconscious on the bed. Chu Yang covered him with a blanket and he faced the inside. Then he walked out with a worried look. "Old gentleman, how's Lord Z's injury?" The few people waiting outside asked anxiously. Cough. "Lord Z's illness is no small matter. I need to go out and pick the herbs immediately. You guys stay here and watch. I've already used the divine needle technique to lock Lord Z's vitality so that it won't leak out. Before I come back, no matter what, don't let anyone in. If the vitality is disturbed, there's nothing I can do. Time is of the essence. I'll leave right away. Fortunately, I know where this herb grows. I'm afraid that others won't know the way to pick it and damage the divine herb. I'll leave right away. I'll have to trouble all of you here. Before I come back, don't let anyone in. This is of utmost importance. Old gentleman Chu Yang said solemnly. Old gentleman, don't worry. We'll definitely take good care of Lord Z. We won't let anyone disturb him. After giving a serious warning, Chu Yang, the old doctor, picked up the medicine hoe and the medicine box, and walked out in a dignified manner. As soon as he went out, he hurriedly walked towards the direction of the mountain gate under the light of the night and the heavy snow. This old gentleman was the #1 physician in the Li clan. He had always been highly respected and had saved countless lives. Everyone in the Li clan knew him. Of course, Chu Yang's journey was very smooth. Patrolling guards saw him constantly. They greeted him respectfully. The old gentleman smiled and nodded. He didn't stop walking. Although this old gentleman was obsessed with medicine, his cultivation was also at the level of a third-stage emperor. Although Chu Yang didn't think it was very good, it didn't stop him from using the speed of a third-stage emperor to hurry on his way. Seeing that he was already out of the clan's buildings, Chu Yang heaved a sigh of relief and walked forward. Suddenly, someone shouted in a low voice, "Password." Chu Yang stopped and stroked his beard with a smile. "It's me." A burly man appeared in the snow. "So it's Mr. Great Pharmacist. Where are you going so early?" Chu Yang sighed and said sadly, "That Lord Z's life is in danger. I have no choice but to go out in the middle of the night to pick herbs for him, but the Patriarch has ordered that no one is allowed to pass this." The burly man hesitated. "The fact that I'm treating Lord Z's illness is also a first-class order from the clan head." Chu Yang smiled. "This, if you don't let me out." The old man was happy and relaxed, so he went back. "If Lord Z is unfortunate enough to die, and the clan's important matter comes to a premature end, you'll just have to bear this responsibility. In such cold weather, I don't even want to go out." Chu Yang snorted. He turned around and left. "Slow down. Oh, mister, please wait." The burly man was stunned. He smiled and said, "I have a duty? I have no choice. Since that's the case, please go and come back quickly. I won't stop you." "Go and come back quickly? On what basis?" Chu Yang rolled his eyes. "Who do you think you are? How dare you order me around? Not only will I not return quickly, but I will also not go." Don't. Oh, mister, please forgive me. I'm just a fart. Once you let go, let me go." The burly man smiled and tried to curry favor. Lord Z even dared to mention the clan head's name in the Li clan. It was needless to say how powerful he was. If something really happened because of him, then his whole family would really be out of luck. Smack. Chu Yang waved his hand and gave this guy a loud slap. He scolded in a low voice, "Bastard. Do you use your mouth to fart? You actually want me to let you go just because I let go? What kind of nonsense is that?" The burly man covered his face. A trace of anger flashed across his eyes, but he didn't dare to flare up. Yes. I said something wrong." Chu Yang snorted angrily. "I'm already angry that I was chased out to pick herbs in such weather. To think that I would meet someone like you along the way." He snorted and raised his head. With his goatee sticking out, he walked proudly through the crowd. After walking for a long time, the burly man returned to his hiding place with a gloomy face. He muttered in his heart, "This old man has always had a good temper. Why is he so unreasonable this time?" He touched his face. It was still burning. He said viciously, "This old fellow is just courting death if he goes out." Chu Yang passed through dozens of checkpoints along the way. When he finally exited the Li clan, he looked back. He actually felt like he was in a dream. He was finally out. This trip wasn't in vain. He had gained a lot. Chu Yang had wanted to come out in the first place. When he heard the news, he couldn't sit still anymore. Why exactly did Lang Yilong, the master of the law enforcement interrogation hall, make a move personally? Chu Yang didn't have any concrete information, but he believed that Lang Yilong definitely wouldn't make a move casually. Lang Yilong didn't even make a move personally during the previous encirclement of Hong Wuliang, his greatest enemy. Firstly, he might really have reached a bottleneck in his cultivation. Secondly, there might be other reasons, but he made a move this time. And the timing this time was probably to deal with the extraterrestrial demon. Other than that, there wasn't any other major issue. But who was the extraterrestrial demon? Chu Yang thought that if it was just to deal with him, Lang Yilong probably wouldn't be alarmed. But could Lang Yilong have made a move this time for Wei Wuyan? If Wei Wuyan was discovered, it wasn't impossible for him to be labeled as an accomplice of the extraterrestrial demon. Besides, Wan Renjie, Cheng Duing and Bao Buhuan were also with Wei Wuyan. These few people had all shown their faces with him in Tianji City. Chu Yang had been keeping an eye on the whereabouts of these 4 people, but there was no news of them at all. This time, they were probably the only ones who were worthy of Lang Yilong making a move personally. Because of him they had fallen into danger. How could Chu Yang not be anxious? Seeing that he was already out and out of the Li clan's line of sight, with his back completely covered by a vast expanse of snow, Chu Yang immediately used his movement technique. With a whoosh he disappeared without a trace. He turned the corner at the foot of a mountain. He returned to his original appearance. However, he wasn't wearing a black robe this time. Instead, he was wearing a white robe as though he was invisible in the heavy snow. As he flew at high speed, his vast and boundless divine cognition spread out in all directions. The most important thing now was to find those people who had come out of the Li clan. The Li clan wanted to find Lang Yilong, and Lang Yilong wanted to find Wei Wuyan. This was a line. When Chu Yang came out, Li Wubua and more than 10 clan elders were discussing Lord Zi's matter. A total of 10 people sat in a circle. They were the backbone of the Li clan and also the decision-makers of the current generation. After returning from visiting Lord Zi tonight, they had gathered together to discuss a few matters. After making arrangements to deal with Lang Yilong and watching the team leave, they could finally sit down and discuss Lord Zi's matter. Elders, tell us about how we should win over Zi Xiaoyan. Li Wubua took a breath and said, using beauty to seduce him is obviously out of the question. His 3 maids are all outstanding beauties, but he didn't move at all. There's no need to mention this. Yes. Another elder said, using purple crystals to move him is also out of the question. He already has the ability to control the purple crystal mine. Neither purple crystals nor wealth can move him. It's a pity to kill him. Another person mused. Of course we can't kill him. But this person must be completely under the control of the Li clan. Once he falls into the hands of other clans, it'll be a huge disaster. Another elder's eyes flickered. Once we've finished using him, it's not impossible to kill him. Everyone fell silent. Li Wubua took a deep breath. He said, I do have an idea, but it's a little insidious. Clan leader, please speak. All the elders said in unison, as long as the Li clan can last for thousands of years, so what if it's insidious? Even if the whole world is furious, we still have to do it. The clan comes first. Under this premise we can disregard everything else. Li Wubua nodded and said, what I mean is, when his injuries are slightly better we'll poison him. What kind of poison can poison a sword supremacy? All the elders started to rack their brains. Soul-controlling herb. Li Wubua enunciated every word clearly. All the elders were shocked. Soul-controlling herb was unique to the Northwest. Combined with ice snow, one could control any supreme martial artist. If one was disobedient, one could make him suffer a fate worse than death with just a thought. But there was a prerequisite for this kind of poison. One had to use the power of a supreme martial artist and use a human life as the catalyst. In other words, one person had to be sacrificed in order to successfully administer the poison. That's good too. We'll use that doctor's life. That old man treated Zi Xiaoyan. He's also the one he won't suspect the most, said an elder. Most of these people had received the doctor's kindness and had received treatment from him. A few of them had even been saved by him. These few people couldn't bear to do it, but after thinking about it they decided not to say anything. Compared to the clan's great undertaking, how much was a human life worth? Even if this person had saved them before, it didn't matter. Those who deserve to die have to die. That old man isn't young anymore. Could it be that if we don't kill him he'll be immortal? An elder's eyes flickered. Therefore, I advise all of you to keep your compassion. You'll get yourself killed. Everyone stopped talking. What he said was true. Although he had saved them before, he was old after all. These few years he was also not as strong as he wished. Would he be immortal if they didn't kill him? Thinking about it this way, everyone actually felt more at ease. Seeing that no one objected, Li Wubua nodded satisfactorily. Alright, since that's the case, we'll do it this way. 7th Elder, you'll be in charge of this. You must be absolutely foolproof. The hawk-nosed 7th Elder stood up to receive the order. This 7th Elder was the coldest and most ruthless among all the elders. Li Wubua had found the right person to assign this task to. Once he's under control, we'll have to guard against his retaliation at all times and train him to make him completely obedient. However, we can't let our guard down either. Li Wubua's eyes were cold and vicious. At an appropriate time, we'll drug him with an aphrodisiac and let him copulate with women to give birth to offspring. The more the better. We'll let him nurture his offspring. After we've confirmed that his offspring are useful, we'll kill Zi Xiaoyan. When I saw the Xingda mobile phone on the web, I was immediately interested. Looking at its functions, it's easy to understand and is very suitable for a mobile phone noob like me. Of course, the most important thing is that it's not expensive. When I get my hands on the mobile phone in a few days, I'll try it out. If it's useful, I'll recommend it to everyone. Of course, we have to share good things. Chapter 1262. Clan Master is wise. The elder's eyes shone brightly. If that's the case, wouldn't the purple crystal bloodline belong to the Li clan? Then, Ali Wubwa said coldly, in this way the purple crystal bloodline can be gradually turned into a branch of the Li clan. By then, the Li clan will be able to stay strong forever. Moreover, no matter when, we will be able to discover the purple crystal mine immediately and easily obtain it. Once we survive this 10,000-year crisis and become powerful enough to kill all the other tribulations, dominating the heavens, wouldn't that be creating the true glory of the Li clan? Everyone thought about it carefully. This matter was really not impossible. Think about it. When the Tribulation Sword Master unified the heavens, there would be many things waiting to be done. Basically, all the top forces would be depleted. However, the Li clan would definitely still retain a large amount of resources and experts. By then, what would be strange if they killed those people while they were unprepared? They could totally do it. This matter is indeed a little sinister. However, for the sake of the clan, this is the only way. Li Wubwa said heavily, I hope the elders can understand and implement it. The elders stood up at once. What are you saying, Clan Master? We've always only listened to the clan's decisions. There's no reason for us to object. In a vast expanse of snow, Wei Wuyan walked forward silently. Behind him, 3 people sighed and followed. They were Wan Renjie, Cheng Duiying, and Bao Buhuan. The 4 of them were all injured. The one with the most serious injuries was Wei Wuyan. Ever since they left Tianji City, the 4 of them had been traveling together. The 4 of them were all experts and didn't encounter any trouble. Instead, they passed quite peacefully for a few days. Especially one day, Wei Wuyan seemed to have discovered something unintentionally. He walked all the way north. He discovered traces of Hong Wuliang. Towards Hong Wuliang, his teacher and enemy, Wei Wuyan really hated him to the core. Once he discovered Hong Wuliang, he immediately disregarded everything and followed him all the way here. Wan Renjie and the other 2 were afraid that something would happen to Wei Wuyan, so they naturally accompanied him. Who knew that after walking for a period of time, the whole world would suddenly be abuzz with news about the extraterrestrial demon. For a moment, everyone was anxious and filled with righteous indignation. Everyone rubbed their palms together. Everyone was scolding Chu Yang for being deranged and despicable. The 4 of them became more and more confused. After asking around for a long time, they finally understood the reason. So it was Chu Yang who had killed everyone from the Medicine Valley. After figuring out the truth, the 4 of them flew into a rage. They cursed loudly in a restaurant and started fighting. How can Chu Yang be an extraterrestrial demon? If Chu Yang is an extraterrestrial demon, then all of you are extraterrestrial demons. Your whole family are extraterrestrial demons. Bao Buhuan's character was irritable. He couldn't help but shout, beating up the people in the restaurant who were talking about this matter on the spot. The 4 of them were already in a bad mood. When he discovered Hong Wuliang, he felt even more depressed. Now, someone actually slandered his brother in front of him. This was simply intolerable. This ruckus was not a big deal, but they were immediately attacked by a group of people. However, most of the people who came over were not experts, so the 4 of them attacked to the east and attacked to the west, and then attacked to the north. In a short time, a large number of people were defeated. Immediately, the 4 of them fell into the awkward situation of being besieged. It had only been 4 hours. Someone recognized them. These bastards, no wonder they defended the extraterrestrial demon Chu Yang. They are his accomplices. I've seen them before. When they were in Tianji City, they were with Chu Yang. They are the extraterrestrial demons. The incident started from there. Wei Wuyan and the 3 of them instantly became the target of public criticism. At first, the 4 of them thought that it was just a riot, but as time passed, the situation became more and more serious. However, he found that the situation was getting more and more serious, and more experts were rushing over. The 4 of them gradually felt the strain. When the big clans and law enforcers interfered, the 4 of them were completely reduced to running for their lives. Go to the southeast and ask Chu Yang what we should do about this matter. Wan Renjie made the final decision. Bring him the news while we're at it. What's wrong with this? The four of them started to advance towards the southeast, but they didn't expect that this journey was so difficult that it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Not only could they not enter the southeast, but they were also chased by the enemies all the way. They almost didn't even have time to take a breather. The four of them tried to escape in all directions. After they failed in all aspects, they finally found an opening to break out of the encirclement. However, they realized that this direction was the northwest. But now they were basically enemies of the whole world. The four of them had no choice but to fight and break out of the encirclement. Along the way, just like that, they actually broke out of the encirclement and reached the northwest. And this was all thanks to the fact that all four of them were veterans of the martial world. All of them were so experienced that they were practically immortals. If it had been anyone else, even their bones would probably have turned into ashes. When they reached here, although there were fewer and fewer people chasing after them, every one of them was still an expert. The four of them were a little miserable. The arrival of law enforcement officers made things worse for them. When the law enforcement interrogation hall came, the four of them basically didn't have any power to fight back anymore. If it wasn't for the master of the law enforcement interrogation hall, Lang Yilong's strict order to capture them alive, the four of them would probably already be dead by now. It was also because of this order of Lang Yilong's that the four of them were able to escape and break out of the encirclement continuously. As a result, they were now running around in circles in this vast snowfield. After a great battle, the four of them broke out of the encirclement with great difficulty and sprinted through the mountains. It's not a good idea to go on like this. Juan Renjia was the most astute. We don't have a target either. How can this work? But we can't stop now. Cheng Duiying had a bitter look on his face. There are pursuers all around us. It's already a blessing to be able to rest for 2 hours. How can we have time to think of other things? Bao Buhuan nodded repeatedly. Eldest senior brother and second senior brother are right. Wei Wuyan was silent. Suddenly he said, "It's still the same idea as what I said." Absolutely not. Before Wei Wuyan finished, Juan Renjia and the other two shook their heads together. It's no big deal for the four of us to die together, if we leave you behind and escape by ourselves. Wei Wuyan, if you still treat us as humans, don't talk about that anymore. Wei Wuyan smiled bitterly. There was a hint of emotion in his lifeless eyes. I know, all of you are loyal. But from the looks of it, Lang Yilong is only targeting me. It's just that I've implicated all of you by following me. I'm willing to be implicated by you. Cheng Duiying straightened his neck and said, others don't have the right to implicate you. Brother Wei, second senior brother is right. Bao Buhuan said fervently. Juan Renjia said, yes, Brother Wei, we're in a life and death situation now. You don't have to persuade us anymore. Brother Wei, eldest senior brother is right. Bao Buhuan strongly agreed. Wei Wuyan took a deep breath and said, if you're alive, you can still inform Chu Yang, our little brother. If we're all dead, who's going to help him? Juan Renjia laughed. Brother Wei. With the moon breeze coupled by his side, how can anything happen to him? Cheng Duiying smiled and said, moreover, Buluqing is also there, and there's also Lord Zi who has unparalleled martial arts. Let's go. We'll only be a burden to him. Bao Buhuan nodded fiercely. Brother Wei, eldest senior brother and second senior brother are right. Wei Wuyan was helpless. Behind them there were shadows. The pursuers were coming again. The four sighed. They sped up and disappeared into the depths of the snowfield, leaving a trail of snow dust behind them. Another 3 days later, Wei Wuyan and the other three were already exhausted. But they finally got rid of the pursuers temporarily. They leaned against each other in a valley and gasped for breath. I really don't know how Brother Wei provoked the law enforcement officers. Why are they so crazy? Only now did Cheng Duiying have time to treat his wounds that had almost frozen. But no matter how he provoked the law enforcement officers came up with the title of extraterrestrial demon to frame him. It's just wrong. Juan Renjia said angrily, if that's the case, the law enforcement officers will give the title of extraterrestrial demon to whoever they don't like in the future? And they can do whatever they want? They're simply bastards. Wei Wuyan sighed. The law enforcement officers are like this. You're all experienced in the martial world. Why can't you see through this? The three of them sighed at the same time. They knew that the world was unfair, but what could they do? They only said a few words of justice for their brothers. But they were labeled as accomplices and hunted by the whole world. If the three of them died, who could they tell this injustice to? There were only people in the world who could swallow their anger. How many more would there be? Law enforcement officers. Her. Bao Buhuan sneered and said in a low voice, "Law enforcement officers are just SOSO." The three of them nodded at the same time. Right at this moment, an indifferent voice said, "You're right. Law enforcement officers are just SOSO. But you've forgotten one thing. Law enforcement officers have power. When you have the ability to make power, you can also play with it." This voice came out of nowhere. It actually seemed to come from above their heads. The four of them turned pale with fright. They jumped up at the same time, rushed out of this hidden spot and looked up. Above the valley, 10 men in black stood there like deep abysses. 10 pairs of cold eyes looked at the four of them in unison. At this moment, the four of them felt as if they had fallen into an ice cave. A wave of despair welled up in their hearts. The person in front was dressed in black, but a bright red headband was tied around his forehead. His face was thin, his expression lonely, his eyes cold and sharp, and his figure thin and long. No one beside him had a cape. He was the only one whose black cloak fluttered in the wind. Even though they had never seen him before, the four of them recognized him at once. This attire belonged to the master of the law enforcement interrogation hall, Lang Yilong. As for the other 10 people, all of them were supreme beings. Just by standing there, they exuded the aura of an expert. "Lang Yilong?" Wei Wuyan looked up and asked slowly, "How dare you? How dare you call the master by his name?" A man in black at the side shouted fiercely. Lang Yilong waved his hand and looked at Wei Wuyan with some interest. "Here. Hong Wuyang's disciple Wei Wuyan? Third update. I'll continue to write the fourth update. Gee, I heard that because I was late yesterday, a little beautiful sub-moderator of the mobile book review section even cried out of grievance. Cough cough. Little girl, don't cry. I'll give you candy. No matter where you are, maintain the harmony in our book review section and create our own paradise. Let's work hard together." Chapter 1263. I am Wei Wuyan. Bone-deep hatred shot out from Wei Wuyan's eyes. "I used to be Hong Wuyang's disciple, but not anymore." He raised his head. "I'm not begging for mercy from you. It's because Hong Wuyang is despicable, shameless, dirty and despicable. I have an irreconcilable feud with him." Lang Yilong sneered. "It's been 1,000 years, and you only just realized how despicable he is?" With a wave of his hand, 10 people floated down from above in an orderly manner. Wei Wuyan and the others didn't move, nor did they escape. The four of them were only first-grade supreme martial artists. And they were already exhausted. Right now, even standing up was very difficult for them, let alone fighting. And the other party was an expert above first-grade supreme martial artist. A few of them were even second-grade and third-grade supreme martial artists. As for the leader, Lang Yilong, he was even more unfathomable. Meeting under such circumstances, there was really no hope of escaping at all. Lang Yilong glided over from the snowy ground like flowing water. Standing in front of Wei Wuyan, he sized him up and nodded. With deep fatigue and loneliness in his eyes, he said in a weary voice, "Wei Wuyan, I believe, you know me." Wei Wuyan replied coldly, "Master Lang is a mighty figure. How can I not know you?" Lang Yilong laughed. Although he was laughing, the expression on his face was still so sorrowful and bleak. He said bleakly, "I'm talking about what happened between me and Hong Wuyang." Wei Wuyan fell silent. Of course he knew about this. Hong Wuyang had mentioned it more than once. But ever since Hong Wuyang's actions caused his image in Wei Wuyan's heart to collapse. Wei Wuyan really couldn't tell who was right and who was wrong between the two of them now. Lang Yilong heaved a long sigh. He said dispassionately, "Ever since I discovered you, I've been making arrangements along the way, forcing you to change your route time and time again, leading you to this northwestern wasteland. Doesn't this place feel very familiar?" Wei Wuyan was silent for a moment. Then he replied, "Yes, it does feel very familiar." Lang Yilong nodded slightly. "Yes, you grew up here. Of course it feels familiar." Wei Wuyan fell silent. There was an inexplicable melancholy on his face. Yes, this was where he grew up. This was his home, his roots. Just here. It was only in order to avoid a strong enemy that he followed Hong Wuyang and fled for tens of thousands of miles. He left this place. One Renjia and the other two were suddenly enlightened. Why was Wei Wuyan able to shake off the pursuers time and time again in such a harsh environment in the northwest region? So that was how it was. The northwest was Wei Wuyan's hometown. However, it wasn't just Wei Wuyan who had a melancholy look on his face. Even Lang Yilong, who was standing in front of him, actually had the same melancholy look on his face. "It's not just you. My hometown is here as well. Lang Yilang said in a low and deep voice, Hong Wuyang's hometown is also here. The person I love deeply, her hometown, is here too. They're all here. Lang Yilang's voice became very hollow and ethereal, as though he was speaking to his soul. He murmured, that's why I didn't hesitate to set up an inescapable net, mobilizing all the forces of the entire law enforcement hall and mobilizing the big clans to pursue and intercept you, just to force you here. Because I want to settle the grudges of my life in my hometown. I see. Wei Wuyan said calmly, so you gave the order that you can't harm our lives and must capture us alive? Lang Yilang gave him a weary smile. He shook his head. With your insignificant strength, do you really think that you can fight your way here? Wei Wuyan sneered. Even if we can't, you're toying with us too much by doing this. Lang Yilang frowned. About that, I'm very sorry. He paused for a moment. But, this has been my wish, for close to 2,000 years. So, even if it's difficult, I still want to do it. Even if I have to let down everyone in the world, I still want to do it. Wei Wuyan stopped talking. He understood what Lang Yilang meant. Even if I have to let down everyone in the world, I still want to do it. Moreover, it's just the four of you? Lang Yilang carried a kind of weariness from his soul to his body from head to toe. This kind of weariness was like that of a traveler who had exhausted all his strength after not eating or drinking for several days in the desert. The moment one saw him, one would immediately empathize with him. As though he himself was also tired. He was tired of this life. It was no longer interesting. Whether Chu Yang is an extraterrestrial demon or not, I don't care. Lang Yilang kept his hands behind his back and kept them in his sleeves. He said, I don't want to kill the four of you either. But you, Wei Wuyan, are the only witness to what happened back then. After he finished speaking, he turned his head and said, please find a place to rest. Then his eyes flashed and he said, treat them with respect. Don't be rude. A supreme martial artist had already stepped forward. With a loud bang, he punched a huge hole in the mountain wall. Then a few people led Wan Renjia and the other two inside and sat down to rest. As expected, they didn't make things difficult for them. Outside the cave, where heavy snow was falling, there were only Lang Yilang and Wei Wuyan. You have to cooperate a little. Because if you don't, those three loyal brothers of yours will die because of you. Lang Yilang said very calmly. Wei Wuyan shouted furiously. I'm only going to say it once. Lang Yilang's voice was bleak. Wei Wuyan lowered his head dejectedly. How do you want me to cooperate? Lang Yilang had grasped Wei Wuyan's greatest weakness. If it was just Wei Wuyan alone, he would have long lost all hope in life and might even be fighting for his life right now. However, with the lives of Wan Renjia and the other two in Lang Yilang's hands, Wei Wuyan didn't dare to act rashly. In fact, he didn't even dare to cough. Wan Renjia and the other two cherished him and accompanied him through life and death. Similarly, Wei Wuyan could do the same and do anything for them. Including doing anything. Follow me. With his hands behind his back, Lang Yilang strolled in the wind and snow, walking up the cliff step by step. Wei Wuyan followed suit, advancing in Lang Yilang's footsteps. Suddenly Wei Wuyan had a strange feeling. Advancing in Lang Yilang's footsteps. If that was the case, his own fate. Compared to Lang Yilang, how much worse was he? Wouldn't their fates be the same? It was all because of Hong Wuyang that his family was ruined and he would be alone for the rest of his life. At the thought of this, Wei Wuyan heaved a long sigh. 1,700 years ago, there was a plum blossom on this cliff. Every time there was heavy snow, the plum blossom would bloom as well. The snow-white plum blossom seemed to have merged into one with the snow-white snow. No one knew when the plum blossom bloomed. No one knew when the plum blossom wilted either. It came and went without a trace. Lang Yilang said in a weary voice, now even that plum blossom tree is gone. Standing on a high spot, he looked around. Then he slowly sat down and patted the snow beside him. Sit down, Wei Wuyan. Be patient and listen to me tell you a story. Without a word, Wei Wuyan sat down in front of him. I have kept this story in my heart. For more than 1,000 years. I have never told anyone about it. Today, when the feud is settled, I want this story to be made known to the world. At the very least, there must be someone related to this story. As a witness. Lang Yilang smiled lightly. Wei Wuyan took a deep breath. Ever since Lang Yilang appeared, he could hear a sense of loneliness and sorrow in Lang Yilang's voice. As well as a kind of bitterness that seeped into his bones. It was as if this person's heart hid countless bitterness, blood, and tears. However, he found it rather strange. Lang Yilang kept saying that the feud would be settled today, but Hong Wuliang was still hiding somewhere. How was he going to completely settle the feud today? Do you think you can settle all the feud by telling me just one story? With a wry smile, Lang Yilang said, 1,700 years ago, 50 kilometers to the east of this hillside, there was a small village. That village was called the Hong Clan Village. My family was the only one with a different surname in the Hong Clan Village. One day the Hong Clan village suddenly changed. The Hong family village suddenly experienced a great change, and all the villagers were killed. Only 2 youths managed to escape. From then on they depended on each other. After going through untold hardships, they broke out of the northwest and vowed to take revenge. The 2 of them swore an oath to the heavens and became brothers. They would stay by each other's side for the rest of their lives. They would never betray each other. Finally, the 2 brothers had their own encounters and finally parted ways. The next time they met, it was already 30 years later. Both of them had to become disciples of famous masters and master their martial arts. Wei Wuyan knew that Lang Yilang was talking about himself and Hong Wuliang. However, this story was obviously very different from Hong Wuliang's. When the 2 of them met, they were naturally overjoyed. From then on, they roamed the martial world together. In the beginning, whatever income the 2 of them had, they would put it together and share it equally. However, at that time Hong Wuliang's cultivation was slightly higher, so he earned more while I earned less. Hong Wuliang gradually felt a little uncomfortable. After I took the initiative to bring it up, Hong Wuliang took the lion's share. Finally, one day the 2 of us met a group of bandits who were robbing a carriage. Hong Wuliang didn't intend to interfere, but at that time, I was reminded of the hatred of having my clan wiped out. I rushed forward. Everyone in the carriage was dead except for a young girl. Because she was beautiful, the bandits didn't kill her. Instead, they wanted to take her back to the mountain. I saved that young girl, and killed those bandits. However, how were the 2 of us going to travel with a weak girl in tow? But if we left her to fend for herself, how was she going to live on with her parents and family members dead? However, Hong Wuliang, who had always been unenthusiastic about this matter, became enthusiastic after seeing this girl's face. He suggested that the 2 of us teach this girl martial arts so that she could increase her strength within a short period of time. As long as she had a foundation in martial arts, she would no longer be a burden. Both the girl and I agreed with this decision very much. Time passed just like that. Although Hong Wuliang had been deliberately putting on a strong front, that girl's dependence on me grew stronger and stronger. As for me, half a year later, the girl and I finally decided to marry each other in private and exchange tokens. The 2 of us agreed that after we had taken our revenge, we would hide in the mountains and live in seclusion, never to come out again. We would stay together in peace and lead a peaceful and stable life. At that time, both of us felt happy and satisfied. It was as if this world had also become lovable. When Lang Yilang reached this point, it was supposed to be a story of a talented man and a beautiful woman. However, his voice suddenly became sinister and resentful. A sinister aura made Wei Wuyan's hair stand on end. Chapter 1264. Since we've decided to spend our lives together, we had to come back to pay our respects to our ancestors no matter what. Lang Yilang's voice became more and more tired and sinister. I told Hong Wuliang about this and he expressed his heartfelt blessings to us. Then he gave each of us a piece of purple crystal as a congratulatory gift. At that time, our cultivation wasn't high. It's usually very difficult to get purple crystals. Sierra and I were very grateful to him. We thought that Hong Wuliang was really a very gentlemanly and magnanimous person. At this point, Lang Yilang let out 2 cold laughs. But he finally said that name inadvertently, Xia. So the 3 of us went back together. I brought Xia with me to pay respects to my parents. Then, while Hong Wuliang was eagerly cooking, I brought Xia with me and the 2 of us came here. Under that plum blossom tree, the 2 of us talked for a very long time. I will remember that day forever. That day, while the plum blossoms were blooming, many were also withering. Snowflakes were falling and the 2 of us snuggled under the plum blossom tree until our bodies were buried by the snowflakes and plum blossoms. Until now, every time I come here, I seem to still be able to smell that faint plum blossom fragrance from that day. Lang Yilang looked into the distance in a daze, watching the snowflakes swirling in the vast sky. When he spoke, he already sounded as if he was dreaming. His gaze was gentle and affectionate as he looked to the left in front of him. It was as if that plum blossom tree was still there. It still gave off the fragrance of plum blossoms. And that beloved girl was still in his arms. His eyes became hazy and his lips trembled slightly, almost imperceptibly. He inhaled deeply and then exhaled deeply. After doing this 3 times he finally spoke. That night, Hong Wuliang very enthusiastically held a banquet to celebrate for us. That day I was very happy. I drank a lot, I drank a lot. When he said the last 4 words drank a lot, Lang Yilang suddenly enunciated each word clearly, his face contorting. Wei Wuyan's initially calm and indifferent expression also gradually became nervous. He knew that the story had reached an important turning point. He knew how tolerant, despicable and shameless Hong Wuliang was towards that master of his. Wei Wuyan knew it very well. Furthermore, Hong Wuliang's disguise had reached a stage where he could even deceive himself. It was really superb. It was evident from Lang Yilang's words. Both Hong Wuliang and Lang Yilang liked this girl. And now, this woman was already engaged to Lang Yilang and had even returned to pay respects to her ancestors. At this point, if Hong Wuliang still didn't take any action, he wouldn't be Hong Wuliang. The next morning when I woke up, I went to look for Xia excitedly. However, I received a blow to the head. I actually saw Hong Wuliang walking out of Xia's room. Come out. Lang Yilang laughed coldly. It was the kind of laughter that came from someone who was so tragic that he couldn't cry but could only laugh. Then Xia told me she suddenly realized something. The one she likes isn't me, but Hong Wuliang. She begs for my forgiveness, begs for my blessings. Lang Yilang gritted his teeth, a strange smile on his face. At that time I was smiling like this. My heart was full of happiness and joy. It made me smile, but before I was done being happy, I had to smile for someone else, the person I loved the most. Yesterday they were still vowing their love to each other, but in just one night she had become someone else's woman. And they wanted me to fulfill their wishes. To fulfill their wishes. At that time Xia held a glass of wine and said that as long as I drank this glass of wine, it would prove that I gave her my blessings. That she would be happy. At that time I was a goddamn fool. At that time I was a goddamn fool. The most foolish fool in the world, the most damned fool in the world. That was me, Lang Yilang. I actually just let out a tragic laugh, took the glass of wine and drank it in one gulp. After saying a few words of blessings incoherently, I broke down and left. I found a place to cry, vent, scold and go crazy. I knew that I had been hurt. I swore that I would never forgive either of them. But at that time I didn't think at all that Xia was in a much worse state than I was. I didn't turn back at all. I also didn't know what kind of expression Xia had on her face behind me. Now that I think about it, what kind of expression must she have had back then? Wei Wuyan, tell me, what kind of expression must she have had when she saw me leaving resolutely? Lang Yilang looked at Wei Wuyan, his tired eyes full of ferocious questions. Wei Wuyan's heart felt stifled. He suddenly felt so stifled that he couldn't speak. What kind of expression must she have had? Wei Wuyan absolutely believed that the expression on that pitiful woman's face when she saw Lang Yilang leaving without a care for her was definitely enough to make any cold-hearted person feel so much pain that he would rather die. After more than a year, Hong Wuliang and Xia got married. I didn't want to go at first. I hated them, but I really couldn't let go. I actually went to congratulate them. I really deserved to die. Actually, I just wanted to see her. At that time, I really hated her. But I really missed her too much. I really missed her too much. Do you understand? That night, Hong Wuliang finally got drunk. And I finally had a chance to talk to Xia. I also drank too much. I grabbed her and asked, why? Why did you treat me like this? I felt so wronged. I wanted to kill someone. But Xia only looked at me in despair. She was wearing a bright red wedding dress, and there was only dead silence and despair in her eyes. Then she asked me, do you really not know what happened that night? That damned Hong Wuliang. That night he poisoned my food and raped Xia. He even threatened her that if she didn't marry him, he wouldn't give me the antidote. Poor Xia, she agreed to marry him just like that. And the cup of wine I drank was the antidote. I finally found out the truth, but it was at her wedding. Hong Wuliang invited many experts, but at that time I couldn't care less. I wanted to take Xia away. I wanted to kill Hong Wuliang. But I was outnumbered and was actually captured by them. Hong Wuliang wanted to kill me. Xia knelt down and begged him. As long as he let me go, she would serve Hong Wuliang for the rest of her life. If he didn't let me go, she would die here. Lang Yilang laughed bitterly. He laughed twice before he suddenly started sobbing softly. It finally turned into loud sobs. More than 1,000 years of suppression were finally released today. Lang Yilong seemed to have opened the floodgates and could no longer close the floodgates of his emotions. Wei Wuyan looked at this senior in front of him. A supreme martial artist, the head of the law enforcement interrogation hall, was crying like a child in front of him. His heart couldn't help but ache. He also thought of his wife and son. His nose couldn't help but turn sour. Tears trickled down his face. Xia sacrificed her life for me to finally let me go like a dog. When I was thrown out, I was like a dog that had nothing. A dog that relied on the sacrifice of his beloved in exchange for a chance to live and breathe. At this point, Lang Yilong laughed bitterly. He breathed with his mouth open. Again and again, heavy and heavy, like the low roar of a wild bull. Wei Wuyan sighed sadly. In comparison between himself and Lang Yilong, he really didn't know who was more pitiful. Since then, I've looked for every opportunity. I made Hong Wuliang my enemy and tried to kill him countless times. But at that time, because of what I thought was Xiao's betrayal, I was dispirited for a very long time. On the other hand, Hong Wuliang kept on improving. I was originally inferior to him. The dispirited period during that time widened the gap between us even more. I was never his match. Time after time. Every time, I barely managed to keep myself alive and escaped like a dog. Hong Wuliang was good at disguising himself. Moreover, he pretended to be a big shot in the martial world, squandering money like water and having a lot of friends. And the money he squandered was mostly what Xiao and I earned back then. This despicable man. I lived my life in a daze. Other than revenge, I didn't think about anything else. I only cultivated and took revenge. After I was injured, I cultivated like crazy and went to take revenge. But after a few years, when I had the confidence to seek revenge from him again, I was surprised to find out that Xia was dead. She died the day before I went. Dead. Lang Yilong's eyes were bloodshot as he roared. The snowy ground within a radius of several thousand feet was shaken and shattered into pieces in the air. And the day I went actually happened to be Xia's funeral. I disregarded everything and barged my way in. That day we fought. At that time, Hong Wuliang was no longer my match. But he had a lot of friends and everyone fought together. I was forced to go far away. That night, I snuck back and dug up Xia's grave. I carried her out. My lifelong ambition was to take Xia away from Hong Wuliang and save her. I finally did it, but what I brought back was Xia's corpse. But I knew that even in death, Xia would never allow herself to stay in the grave of that Hong Wuliang's wife. So, I didn't allow it either. Xia's corpse was covered in wounds. She didn't die of illness. No. She was beaten to death by Hong Wuliang. This heartless and unscrupulous thing. Panting heavily, Lang Yilong's eyes were bloodshot. From then on, Hong Wuliang invited many experts to make things difficult for me, saying that I had humiliated him. I concealed my identity and fled to a faraway place with Xia's corpse. I used all means to join the law enforcement officers and climbed up the ranks of the law enforcement officers by hook or by crook. Hong Wuliang knew that I was plotting against him. During that period of time, he also cultivated like crazy, using all means to rope in experts. Finally, when I became the deputy head of the law enforcement officers' interrogation hall, I discovered a secret place and obtained a secret legacy. During the battle with Hong Wuliang that time, I gave him a hard hit with the purple crystal hand. I could have killed him that time, but I didn't and let him escape. I wanted him to use the purple crystal hand to torture him for the rest of his life. There's no such thing as letting him die so easily. With deep resentment, Lang Yilong laughed savagely and repeated, "There's no such thing as letting him die so easily. If I let him die just like that, all the torture that Xia and I have suffered all these years would have been too much of a waste. Xia wouldn't allow it either." I've been dealt a blow. I regrouped, adjusted my emotions and moved forward steadily. Today's update will be late. It was raining heavily. Taking advantage of the fact that others were sheltering from the rain and couldn't see, Lai Wu went to the riverside with an umbrella and howled for half an hour. He pointed at the sky and scolded the earth, then scolded Old Cat. In the end, he returned to write his story in high spirits. There might be snow tomorrow? To be continued. Chapter 1265. You'll also know what happened in the future. It was only after a very long time that Lang Yilong finally said this. I didn't expect Hong Wuliang's luck to be so good. When it was already very difficult for him to earn purple crystals, he actually took in a good disciple. And this disciple actually served him for 1,000 years. Lang Yilong's thin chest heaved up and down. After a long while, he finally reached out his sleeve to wipe away his tears without leaving a trace. He said, "The story is over. Here there is a most pitiful person, a most despicable person, a most foolish person. Just 3 people were enough to form this tragedy that had lasted for more than 1,000 years. Wei Wuyan, do you have anything you want to say?" He actually laughed softly as if he was lost in thought. Wei Wuyan lowered his head sadly. He murmured weakly, "You keep saying that you're a fool, but how would you know that the most foolish person is me? You're stronger than me. At least you've always hated him. Besides, it's just his lover, not his wife, and he doesn't have any descendants." Lang Yilong frowned. "I've been deceived by him for a lifetime. Haha." Wei Wuyan laughed miserably. "My family died tragically. Both my parents died. My wife was killed by him, and my biological son was strangled to death by him when he was still an infant. After all these things, I even served him for almost 1,000 years. Who's the fool?" "Ah, you're the fool? Why are you being foolish? Are you even more foolish than me?" Lang Yilong was silent for a very long time. Finally he said, "So you're that miserable too?" Wei Wuyan laughed and cried at the same time. "Don't you feel that it feels great to be in the same boat?" Lang Yilong also laughed at once. As he laughed, as tears streamed down his face, he said miserably, "It does feel great." After a very long time, Lang Yilong took a deep breath and said, "Speaking of which, your fate and misery is still because of me." Wei Wuyan was silent for a long time. Then he shook his head dispassionately. "Perhaps, but I can't blame you." Lang Yilong heaved a long sigh. "Hatred makes me crazy," Lang Yilong said in a low voice. "Whoever's hatred is crazy." Wei Wuyan laughed bitterly. "But today, we can stop being crazy." Lang Yilong reached out and grabbed a handful of snow. He crumpled it into a ball and rubbed it on his face forcefully. He said dispassionately, "We have to settle all our grudges today." Therefore she cried for a while first. After crying, it was time to end it. "Wei Wuyan, if you have a deep hatred, I can let you do half of it." Wei Wuyan was stunned. "You?" Lang Yilong laughed savagely. "Don't tell me that my promise to end all grudges was for nothing." As he spoke, he let out a wild laugh. His laughter was filled with delight, and he leaped into the air amidst the laughter. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared. Then he slowly walked over from afar in the boundless wind and snow. He was dragging a rope in his hand. It seemed that he was dragging something along the way. As he neared, he exerted force on his wrist and bellowed, "Catch!" A black shadow rushed towards Wei Wuyan. Wei Wuyan stretched out his hand to receive it, and his whole body couldn't help but tremble. What Lang Yilong had dragged over was actually a person. Hong Wuliang. At this moment, Hong Wuliang's eyes were lifeless and his face was pale. His body was also curled up and trembling. He no longer had the demeanor of an expert from before. Last time, after I forced him to come out, he had been under my surveillance the whole time. I tortured him along the way. I didn't give him a single purple crystal. I watched him beg, watch him get bullied, watch him get spat on. Every day I was as happy as if it was the new year. Lang Yilong gritted his teeth. "But how can I not have a witness for what happened back then?" Lang Yilong chuckled tragically. "Therefore, the moment I knew about you, I did everything I could to force you to come here. Don't blame me for being vicious. Because I want to end this feud here, in this place of origin, under the witness of a person who is related to both parties. Under the witness of the deities of heaven and earth. If you had said so earlier, I would have come even if you didn't force me," Wei Wuyan said dispassionately. "But I was afraid that you wouldn't come." Lang Yilong snorted. "I believe that the elders of both parties are here to watch. Sierra's spirit in heaven is also watching silently. She's watching this scum get his retribution. She's watching this scum get his punishment today." Lang Yilong howled into the sky. "Did you see that? Did you see that?" Wei Wuyan started to tremble all over. He stared fixedly at Hong Wuliang, gritting his teeth so hard that they made cracking sounds. Lang Yilong slapped Hong Wuliang a few times. White smoke came out of Hong Wuliang's mouth at once and his eyes became lively. The next moment he saw Wei Wuyan and couldn't help but shudder all over. He avoided looking at Wei Wuyan, but when he turned around he saw Lang Yilong again. His originally somewhat guilty gaze suddenly turned ferocious. Lang Yilong took a deep breath, but his voice became strangely gentle. "Hong Wuliang, how have you been these few days?" Hong Wuliang panted a few times before he suddenly shouted, "Lang Yilong, kill me if you have the guts." Kill you. Of course I'll kill you. Lang Yilong's eyes were cold. But before you die, there's something I need to clarify. Hong Wuliang sneered. Go ahead. Back then Xia was already your wife and had been with you for more than 10 years. Why did you suddenly want to beat her to death? Lang Yilong's eyes slowly turned red. I can beat my wife to death if I want to. What does it have to do with you? Hong Wuliang smiled viciously. What? Does your heart ache? Lang Yilong's limbs were trembling slightly. I want to know the reason. You want to know the reason? Hong Wuliang was trembling, but there was a vicious sneer in his eyes as he looked at Lang Yilong. Who do you think you are? Why should I tell you? Lang Yilong took a deep breath. Are you going to tell me or not? Hong Wuliang burst into laughter. I'm about to die anyway. Why should I tell you? Why should I fulfill your wish before I die? Even after I die, I want you to regret it forever. He smiled cruelly. That bitch. I just wanted to beat her to death. I just wanted to torture her to death. I just wanted to torture her to death in all kinds of strange ways. Do you know, from the day she married me, I started to torture her. I tortured her for more than 10 years without stopping every single day. I just want to torture her to death. What can you do? Your heart aches? Your heart aches because you're also an adulterer. Even after she dies, she's still my wife. What? Do you want to take revenge? Lang Yilong's clothes and hair fluttered even though there was no wind. He gritted his teeth and said, You will tell me. Hong Wuliang spat at him. Don't even think about it. I, Hong Wuliang, have been despicable and shameless all my life, but my bones are still tough. Lang Yilong, you don't believe me? Then come and try. See if I'll tell you or not. Lang Yilong smiled coldly. With a wave of his hand, the snow on the ground was cleared away, revealing the ground. He slammed his palms together and the ground became as solid as steel. Then he dragged Hong Wuliang down and placed him on the stone slab. He said menacingly, Are you going to tell me or not? Hong Wuliang sneered and scolded, Adulterous couple. Lang Yilong nodded. All right. He took out a small jade bottle and poured out a fragrant pill from the jade bottle. The next moment he pinched Hong Wuliang's chin. Hong Wuliang involuntarily opened his mouth, and the pill instantly entered his mouth. Poison? Do you think I'll? Hong Wuliang sneered. He was only halfway through his sentence when he suddenly exclaimed in horror, 100 spirits pill? Lang Yilong. You're so vicious. Lang Yilong shook the small jade bottle in his hand and smiled cruelly. There are still 10 pills in here. I used 3 million purple crystals in exchange for 1100 spirits pills. I'm going to use all of them on you. Beside him, Wei Wuyan suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. The 100 spirits pill wasn't poison but a rare elixir in the world. It was one of the most supreme and miraculous elixirs among the law enforcement officers. Taking the 100 spirits pill could increase one's cultivation and raise one's mental strength by 1 level within a short period of time. It could endlessly stimulate the sensitivity of one's entire body, making one's nerves 100 times more sensitive than usual. This kind of elixir, especially when one was breaking through bottlenecks and comprehending one's realm, was really effective. It was hailed as the abstinence-breaking elixir. And now, Lang Yilong was actually using this 100 spirits pill to deal with Hong Wuliang. Wei Wuyan naturally wouldn't be so naive as to think that Lang Yilong was helping Hong Wuliang to raise his level. He was only using this 100 spirits pill to keep Hong Wuliang's mental strength in an abnormally high state so that he wouldn't pass out. He was also allowing his tactile nerves to reach the most sensitive level so that he could endure the greatest amount of pain. As he spoke, Lang Yilong thoughtfully helped Hong Wuliang circulate his energy to dissolve the effects of the 100 spirits pill. Hong Wuliang's ghastly pale face reddened at a speed visible to the naked eye. Then he became full of vigor and energy. However, Hong Wuliang's eyes became even more horrified and fearful. I'm not especially torturing you. Lang Yilong smiled cruelly. Bear with it. When you can't take it anymore, just tell me the information I want. I'll give you a quick death. After he finished speaking, without waiting for Hong Wuliang to speak, he grabbed Hong Wuliang's hand and placed it on the stone slab. Then he raised a huge rock with his right hand and smashed it down viciously. Blood and flesh flew everywhere. There was a tragic cry. Although Hong Wuliang gritted his teeth, he still underestimated the power of this 100-fold sensitivity. He only felt an extremely intense pain spreading through his body so clearly. Lang Yilong's face was as cold as a piece of metal. The huge rock in his hand smashed down again and again. Hong Wuliang's tragic cries also rose and fell. The saddest thing for him was that even though the pain was enough to make him faint 100 times during normal times after taking the 100 spirits pill, he still wouldn't faint. Moreover, he still maintained the clearest state of mind to feel the pain. He was trembling all over, but his face was rosy and he was full of vigor. As if he was doing something pleasing to the eye, Lang Yilong kept smashing the rock in his hand down again and again and again. His eyes were filled with the joy of finally getting his revenge. Very carefully, he smashed Hong Wuyang's fingers into smithereens according to the order of each joint. There was absolutely no order that was out of order at all. With every rock smashed down, Lang Yilong would say in a low voice, I've finally avenged you. Can you see that? The second update. I'll continue writing the third update. Give me some monthly votes to encourage me. G. To be continued. Chapter 1266. Hong Wuyang's screams became more and more tragic. Lang Yilong's gaze became more and more affectionate. At first, Wei Wuyan was still watching with great pleasure. But gradually he started to turn his head away. In the end he even turned his back. This person was his greatest enemy. The tragedy of his life was all because of him. But why was it that he still couldn't bear to do it? The stones fell again and again until they finally turned into powder. Hong Wuyang's left hand was also smashed into a pile of minced meat. Hong Wuyang's screams also gradually died down. Finally his eyes rolled back and he fainted. Lang Yilong didn't panic. He took out another 100 spirits pill and fed it to him, considerately helping him to circulate his energy and dissolve the effects of the pill. Then he woke him up and let him regain his rosy complexion. Then he picked up another stone from the ground. Taking Hong Wuyang's right hand, he pried open his 5 fingers and measured them carefully. Then he smashed the stone down hard. He didn't ask questions like, "Are you going to tell me or not?" Instead he just smashed the stone down savagely. It was as if this had already become his greatest pleasure. His gaze was persistent and his wrist was steady. The flesh and blood flying in front of him seemed to be a beautiful painting, making him feel relaxed and happy. He muttered silently, do you see this? Do you see this?" Hong Wuyang was screaming miserably, the muscles on his face contorting into all kinds of strange shapes. Lang Yilong smashed the stone as he muttered. Suddenly tears streamed down his face. Wei Wuyan finally couldn't take it anymore. He said, "Elder Lang, if you really want to torture him, there should be a lot of cruel punishments like breaking his tendons and bones, right? You're in charge of the torture chamber, so you should know more, right? Why do you have to? Why do you have to use this most ordinary and disgusting method?" He didn't say this out loud. But Lang Yilong understood. As Lang Yilong smashed the stone non-stop, tears streamed down his face. He choked and said, "Xiao's cultivation is low. She can't understand what I'm using. Since I'm avenging her, I'll use the method that she can understand the most." She's watching. She's smiling. I can feel it. Lang Yilong bit his lip. Tears flowed down his face as he smashed the stone down hard. Wei Wuyan heaved a long sigh. Wuyan. Hong Wuyang screamed. Suddenly he shouted Wei Wuyan's name like a madman. "Considering that we are master and disciple, just kill me. Just kill me. Please kill me, I beg you." Wei Wuyan's body was trembling. In front of his eyes, the silhouette of his dead wife and son suddenly appeared. He became irritable and roared, "Then when you killed my wife and son, did you ever think that you were my master? It's my fault. Please kill me. Kill me to avenge your wife." Hong Wuyang cried out miserably. Right at this moment, Lang Yilong struck out with one hand. Wei Wuyan shuddered all over and couldn't move at all. "Although you might not be persuaded by him. But I don't want to take the risk. I just want to torture him to death." Lang Yilong said dispassionately, "So, I'll have to trouble you. You just have to watch and listen." Hong Wuyang started cursing. "Lang Yilong. You bastard. You bastard. You adulterer. I wish I could." But right after, his curses turned into screams again. After a long while, when Lang Yilong had smashed Hong Wuyang's arms into meat paste, he suddenly stopped and asked, "Are you hungry?" As he spoke, he took out a knife and cut off the meat paste with a few slashes. After cutting it into a few pieces, he pinched Hong Wuyang's nose and stuffed the meat paste that Hong Wuyang's arms had turned into piece by piece into his mouth. He said apologetically, "I forgot that I should have let you eat something. If you don't eat, how would you have the stamina to be tortured by me?" Hong Wuyang whimpered. He desperately wanted to vomit. However, as Lang Yilong fed him, he circulated his energy to help him digest the food. Hong Wuliang couldn't scream or vomit. Even fainting had become an extravagant hope. In just a short while Hong Wuliang's stomach bulged. He had actually swallowed his entire arm. Since you're full, let's continue working. Hong Wuliang, don't beg for mercy. I'll be disappointed. Lang Yilong gritted his teeth. He reached out and pulled Hong Wuliang's left leg over as well. I'll let you eat yourself bit by bit, Lang Yilong said fiercely. No, Lang Yilong. Brother Lang. I've let you down. I'm not human. Spare me. Kill me. Hong Wuliang finally broke down. Who knew what it felt like to eat one's own flesh? Hong Wuliang finally couldn't take it anymore. You know what I want. Lang Yilong hit his left leg with a stone. If I speak too slowly, you'll start eating your own leg. I'll speak, but after I'm done, please give me a quick death. I beg you. Hong Wuliang's tears and snot flowed out together. You speak too slowly. Lang Yilong hit him with a stone again. I'm the one in charge now. Alright, as long as you speak the truth, I'll kill you. I'll give you a quick death. You mean what you say? Hong Wuliang's eyes lit up. Since when had a supreme martial artist actually turned seeking death into his greatest wish? Bam. Lang Yilong hit him with a stone. One of his toes shattered and turned into minced meat. Don't say anything if you don't believe me. I'll speak. Hong Wuliang was in so much pain that his whole body convulsed. He gasped and said, I'll speak? It's like this. That day I was married to Xia for 10 years. I robbed a rich family. As he spoke, he sucked in a breath of cold air and trembled. I intercepted a purple crystal core. I hired someone to make this purple crystal core into a piece of jewelry. I was very happy to go home and give this jewelry to her. Hong Wuliang suddenly burst into tears. I love her too. Do you understand? I also want her to be happy. I've carefully coaxed her all these years. But when I happily gave this piece of jewelry to her, she was unhappy. She wasn't happy. I was drinking in the living room while she was in the room. The more I drank, the more depressed I felt. Why was she still unhappy even though I tried so hard to coax her? It was then that I heard her reciting a poem softly. After I finished listening to it, the alcohol rushed to my head and I suddenly became very violent. I rushed in and gave her a beating. I didn't expect that I would actually beat her to death. Hong Wuliang bawled, snot and tears running down his face. I really didn't want to beat her to death. But when I hit her, not only did she not avoid it, she even sent her body towards me. I drank a little too much again. Lang Yilong's Adam's apple bobbed up and down. He asked bitterly, a poem? What poem? She said, even if one has 1,000 dendrobium pearls, her dowry will no longer be old. Priceless treasures are easy to find, but it's hard to find a lover. Hong Wuliang moaned and screamed. Suddenly he roared fiercely, it's just these 4 lines, it's nothing much. It's just that after she finished reciting, she actually repeated the last 3 words. Have a lover. 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 Fuck her. What did I do wrong to her? Even until she died she was talking about you. What's so good about you? You bastard, what's so good about you? Which part of you is better than me? Lang Yilong was already stunned. Priceless treasures are easy to find, but it's hard to find a lover. Have a lover. Lover. He didn't expect this. Xiara's death was actually because of this. Because of him. Suddenly he roared fiercely. With tears streaming down his face, he picked up a huge rock and smashed it down viciously. As he smashed it down, he screamed madly, Xia, 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 my Xia. His screams were shrill and mournful, just like an injured lone wolf howling at the sky in the wilderness. It was a feeling of his heart being broken and splitting apart piece by piece. Lang Yilong was screaming madly, but Hong Wuliang actually also became excited under this kind of even more intensive attacks. He shouted loudly, she's mine. She's mine. Both of them were screaming and screaming as if they were struggling for their lives. It was as if they were fighting and comparing whose voice was louder. The rock in Lang Yilong's hand quickly shattered into pieces. He picked up another rock and smashed it down viciously. Blood and flesh splattered everywhere. His screams traveled far and wide, piercing through the clouds. The snowflakes in the sky gradually increased in intensity. The clouds became thicker and thicker. The sound of the wind also became more and more shrill. After a long time, there was no sound anymore. Lang Yilong threw down the blood-stained rock in his hand in a daze. The rock fell to the ground with a clang. His heart also trembled a little. Hong Wuliang, who was on the ground, had already turned into a pile of meat paste from head to toe. In this bout of uncontrollable attacks, Lang Yilong couldn't control himself and smashed Hong Wuyang's entire body into meat paste. Hong Wuyang had disappeared from this world forever. A string of tears silently rolled down the eyes of Wei Wuyan, who had been unable to move all this while. All of a sudden, he felt an emptiness in his heart, as if he was all alone in a vast and uninhabited wilderness. Lang Yilong stood up. His body swayed a little before he sat down again. He sat there in a daze, his eyes empty. After a long time, he hugged his head with both hands and covered his face. He squatted down and slowly lowered his body. Suddenly, he sprawled on the snowy ground and burst into tears. "I've taken revenge." Sob sob. "I've taken revenge for you." Siha. The wind whistled shrilly as it swept across the sky. It was as if the heavens were letting out a deep sigh. It was only after a long while that Lang Yilong finally turned around with trembling lips and gave Wei Wuyan a pat. Wei Wuyan felt that he could move again right away. He turned around and was about to speak when he got a huge shock all of a sudden. Lang Yilong's face was full of wrinkles and he looked old. His hair, which was still black and shiny just a moment ago, had already turned white. He actually seemed to have aged by several thousand years in an instant. "It's all over." Lang Yilong sighed. When he said this, his lips were trembling lightly and his body seemed to have curled up as well. Hugging his arms, he squatted down as if he couldn't withstand the cold. Burying his head, he sighed deeply again. "It's all over, yes? It's all over?" Wei Wuyan repeated. He understood Lang Yilong's feelings very well. Because his heart was also feeling empty right now, the two of them were speechless. Suddenly, a dispassionate voice said, "No, it's not over yet. Master Lang, it's really been a long time since we last met." You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.